Welcome, everyone, to day one of Blue Talk's Amplify Your Message. I kind of want to dance, Rob. I just want to sing a dance as we start.
I always dance. You know that.
I'm extra excited today because it's been a while. I get to have some fun guests and some fun guest co-hosts. But for those of you who have never been here before, this is Blue Talk's Amplify Your Message. Blue, think of it like TEDx meets Chicken Soup for the Soul meets Mind Valley, and they were just all smushed into one lovely bunch of coconuts. That is what Blue is. It stands for Business, Life, and the Universe, because here we believe that they're all connected. And I find that the people here, or at least I've been around for a little while, they feel like family to me, and I finally feel like I have a space where people get me because I love the patterns and how everything is connected. So, love all of this. I am your host today, and every day, I guess, Laura Lake, but today my guest co-host is Rob. I'm going to introduce myself. Rob, afterwards, I'll get you to introduce you. And while Rob is introducing himself, I'm going to share on social media. So please share on social media. So for those who've never met me, I'm, yes, the host of Amplify Your Message, but I also have my own stuff that I do. So I love to talk about courageous connection, and you'll see it weaved into all of our conversations today. What that really means is that those of us like us here, those change makers, entrepreneurs, disruptors, we have been through some sort of struggle. We've learned some lessons, and now we're trying to share the message because of that. But what actually happens is it's not the story itself that gets people to connect with you. It's you being able to identify the emotional journey behind that.
Yeah.
Oh boy, does it take courage to look into and try to find the patterns between all of that stuff. It's a lot of personal development. So you'll see that weaved in our conversation. Rob, can you tell us a bit about you as I share on social media?
Absolutely. First of all, so grateful to be here with you, Laura. I've been waiting for this moment. I'm so glad you asked me to do this. I'm looking forward to a great conversation. So my name, Rob Swimer. I am a peak performance strategist. So what I do is I go in and activate audiences on the keynote stage and in corporate America to live, love, and lead in a peak state. And I do this by activating the audience with what we call physical intelligence. Simple body movements and breath work and manifesting to get you in a state where you can really not just survive the fast pace of life and business, but you can thrive. I'm a global speaker, trainer. I'm a TEDx speaker as well, and a best-selling author, as well as a media contributor. So I'm like you, I'm all over the map. I got a lot of things going on, but I am absolutely loving my life, and I get to serve every day and give back, and couldn't be in a better place. So that's me, Laura.
Thanks. For some reason, it is not coming up really quickly. So somebody else will have to share it into the Amplify Your Message group for me. Thank you very much. We do have our first guest behind the scenes. Mark, just give me a thumbs up if you're ready to join us.
Awesome. Let's go.
Awesome. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Laura. How are you? And Rob,
Good.
too.
Hey, Mark.
I'm going to turn you both down just a little. Try to balance it. Okay. So, Mark, behind the scenes, we are discussing my not-so-secret opening question. Because I think it's a little boring when I just get somebody's elevator pitch or read a bio. Blech. I want to get to know Mark as a human being first. So, Mark, here's my opening question.
Okay.
If you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
Ooh.
And I forgot my notebook. Starting a new one. Got it.
The three words. He survived, he healed, and he's making a difference.
Love that. That's well.
I need a different notebook. So survived, heal, and making a difference?
Making a difference.
I love how everybody tries to cheat. They're like, no, I'm going to have 2 words in one. Just pick a
Well,
page.
that's human nature. There's more description in it that way. So.
Of course. So survived, healed, and sorry, what was the last one?
Contribution.
Contribution. And this is for Mark. So then, of course, the follow-up question to this is, why do you like to be described as that you survived, that you healed, and that contribution?
Well, I think for people that know me well, they would know that that is the story of my life. They would know the childhood that I came out of. They would know the the trauma, and the struggles that came along with all of that as a child into my adulthood. I say I was a juvenile delinquent till I was 35. I say that a lot. And then, the process of healing, the process of growing through it, and now my desire to, to share that with other people that are just like me.
I muted myself.
Okay.
I need you guys to have this sign for me. Okay.
Oh.
My apologies. So Mark, can you frame in a very short way, like a copy paste for us viewing way,
Okay.
what it is that you do for people, so we have some context of how all this connects?
Well, having a background with trauma, and with recovery, 12-step recovery, and business skills, I'm able to connect dots for people that may be blind to, either the opportunities that they're missing, or the roadblocks or the block walls or brick walls that are stopping them from moving to the next level.
I've had a lot of conversations lately about those mindset shifts. So the last Blue Talks networking, I was asking questions just like that. It's like, what is it that you feel holds you back? And what is it that helps to build your courage, so that they could come to that conclusion of, what's that mindset shift that I need to make? Because most of the time it's just that little dial in our head where we need to go, instead of looking this way, look over here, get out of the corner.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think for some reason, I would say, to me, the word is fear. That fear, and I think the fears are different for everyone, because everybody has a different background and they have a different experience to get to where they're at right now. But if you peel back the onion to what is holding people back, it's typically a fear. Sometimes it's, fear of failure, and other times it's fear of success too. The great unknown of success. What's going to happen if you succeed?
I was stuck in both of those. I remember the days where it was the fear of failure. My whole younger life, I was like perfectionist, because perfectionism meant that I was safe.
Yeah.
And so I would try to do the high standards and the perfection, and it just burnt me out. But then after that, I had the fear of success, because I'm like, well, how is everything going to change when it does start to align? Or when I am finally confident, like all those relationships that I built off the false version of me, or trying to feel safe, is all of that going to fall away? And then I'd feel alone again, that first thing that I feared to begin with?
And that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people go through that experience. I know for me personally, in the struggle with that, I was always focusing on what I might be losing, rather than be opening to experiencing what I could possibly be given. And when I'm a spiritual person, I believe in God, the power of the universe, and I think that God is trying to offer us things that we can't even imagine. Whenever I was raised on or I was trained to be a goal setter, and to pick a spot to go for, pick something to aim for. And it wasn't until recently, in the last year or two, that I recognized that every time I wrote down a goal that I wanted to achieve, I was also setting the limit of my vision, at least for that moment. So we need to have goals that we can expand upon if we want to continue to grow.
Can you describe that part just a little bit more, the setting the limit of your goal, or your vision, sorry?
Well, my favorite definition is of a horizon is it's the limit of your vision. And, if somebody says, I want to earn $100,000, or I want to earn $500,000, or I want to, take a trip around the world, they're setting something to aim for, yes, but they're also excluding anything that's different than that God has in store for them, or that God has in mind for them. So when you choose something, it's like marriage. When you choose a spouse, you're also choosing nobody else. And it's the same thing with your goal. If you choose a goal, you're also excluding so many other things.
I think I had that epiphany probably a year and a half ago. Like after I moved here, it was, wait a second. I went through the fear of failure. I went through the fear of success. And now it was the fear of the unknown. But I started to realize if I never go into the unknown, then I am completely limiting myself to the things that I do know. And how much do I actually know?
Yeah.
Is it everything that's possible, or is it about this much of what's possible? I would rather the universe help me figure it out than to me, with my limited experience, to be like, these are the only things possible. No, the unknown is this magical place of possibility. So now I'm excited instead of trying to hide the whole time.
Isn't that living in faith versus fear, right? So it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mark and I have something in common too. I'm also a recovering addict in the program, a 12-step program. So didn't know that about Mark. So congratulations, Mark.
Yeah, that was a great, that was probably the watershed moment in my life, because it was something that until I dealt with that, I couldn't go any further.
Right. Yeah.
Do you mind if we dive into that, or what's related to that just a little bit?
I gave you the opening, Laura. Go ahead.
I'm an open book, I tell you.
Well, I'd like to ask, because sometimes it feels like we're trying to pull things out of you, but I want you to feel safe in the showing of it and the vulnerability of it. But Mark, is this moment for you, or that experience for you, a key part in the reason why you do all of this work?
It's so hard to, express the difference between, being stuck, to not be able to move forward, to feel shame, to feel powerless, to not feel like you're good enough. And all of those things are byproducts of addiction. The addiction is really the coping mechanism for those feelings that we don't want to feel.
Right.
And it's so strange that in order to get past those feelings and to work through them, you have to stop the behavior of the addiction and do the work to get there. And so it wouldn't be possible. It wouldn't be possible to do the work without all of that. But there's a second part of it, is that, once I was opened up to that, life is just so blessed that I want to share it with other people. And when I see other people that are struggling, or they're not meeting their potential, at least the potential that I see, it can be frustrating, which is called codependence. I know that. So I'm still working on myself, so to say. But, there is a joy in watching someone, the light bulbs go on, and for them to feel what I feel.
Did you notice that, Mark? Or both of us were like,
We're in that club. I'm in that club.
Yeah.
Lifelong learner. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like the words that you brought up when you were talking about the emotions of your story, because this is everything that I do. So I get super excited. You mentioned stuck, shame, and powerless as describing that energy of the feeling of that. I guess I'll call it your deepest, darkest moment, or the one that's related to the work that you do.
Yeah.
Can you give us, from your point of view, with the energy behind these words, the stuck, the shame, and the powerless, what is an example of the equal and opposite of this feeling for you?
Well, in 12-step programs, they call it serenity. I had no clue, what that word meant. And, and it comes and it goes. There is a peace, I sort of describe it as I can feel my blood pressure dropping 20 points. When I drove into Tennessee for the first time, I recently moved to Tennessee about 3 years ago. When I first drove into Tennessee, went with the green grass and everything, I could feel my blood pressure drop. There is, there's that wave that comes down, upon you that is so peaceful.
Yeah.
And, to me, that is so opposite of, the state that I experienced for, so much of my life and can go back to under stress.
So I'm going to share a comment and then I'll continue. So Jameson Forrest said, well said, Mark. So you're getting some celebration in the comments.
Yeah.
So Mark, the stuck, the shame, the powerless, you gave us an equal and opposite idea of the serenity and the peace, that wave of peace. Does this feel like the type of transformation that you are helping people with today?
I wish it for everyone that I work with today. I would say that I wish it. What I have, learned to realize in some of my coaching is that, some people are not ready for transformation.
No.
They, I will be coaching them and they'll be looking for a sales script, or they'll be looking for a technique or for a marketing suggestion or an answer to a question. But I sort of use this analogy that they're sort of like a popcorn kernel. They are hard and closed and you can't crack them for nothing.
No.
There's nothing you can do except put a bunch of heat under them to get them to pop. And that popping, sensation is pretty painful for them, but a popcorn really should be a popcorn, not a kernel, That's the beauty of it.
Or we just take it back to the cob and eat it on the cob.
Yeah.
Till it gets stuck in our teeth. No, I wanted to highlight that, Mark, because now the types of things that you have chosen to do today, the mindset shifts, you mentioned marketing and all the questions that come with that and business. Now we get to see, as you're moving forward, you're going to want to you're going to want to amplify the way that you serve people to get to that peace or serenity through the skills that you have. So whether it is through the marketing, or one example I love to give is journaling. Not everybody likes to journal, but that may be a version of expression for you as you keep growing into this. And not all versions of expression are going to be for everybody. But now that they know a little bit about you as a human being and what it is that you're aiming for and where you've been, now they're like, oh, I can see Mark and follow Mark for who he is, and not just like squeeze out all your value and take all the skills.
Yeah.
Now you treat it like a human.
Well, and I like that. One of the things I'll share with you, and I have done this every day for the past 15 years, is I have a 90-minute routine that I do in the morning. I read scripture, I read recovery information, I read things that are related to whatever task that I'm working on, or any question that I have, and then I write 3 pages a day in a journal like you're talking about, and I got that from a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron some years ago. And I have missed maybe 5 days in the last 15 years of going through that process. And if there was one secret to my peace and happiness, it is that. It is that one discipline that has made all the difference. I have a relationship with myself, and I have a relationship with God that no matter what's going on in the world or anywhere else, I never lose that.
So a disciplined habit of, can I label that as checking in with yourself?
Sure.
I just like to use your own words instead of my words. Because checking in with you, then it's asking yourself, is this right for me at every step of the way? Or is this somebody else, going back into those bad codependency habits and the perfectionism habits? Is this somebody else in the back of my mind that is in my voice now saying to do this because I should, because I could, because I have to?
It's exactly the opposite of what my childhood was about. Really. It's the exact opposite of that.
Can you share a bit about your childhood? Like, how is it the opposite?
Ooh, well, as a child, I grew up in an alcoholic household. There was physical and emotional abuse. I think the emotional abuse was worse than the physical abuse.
Mhm.
We were not in the poverty that my mother had grown up with. I was born, to a single mother at the age of 21. Dad left before I was born, that kind of thing. And, I was raised, with a bunch of people struggling, young adults that were struggling. And as a kid, you get angry about that. You get disappointed. You need things from the adults, but if there's no adults in the room, you miss out on that. And it makes you angry.
Yeah.
And then when you say something about it, they will typically punish you for speaking up. They'll typically do that. And when you're a child, you know who's going to win. It's going to be the adults. And so, exiting childhood, that's where I came out with the shame and the powerlessness and and the learned helplessness, because I had never been able to have any agency over my life as a child. But with my 90 minutes every morning, I have agency and a connection with myself that counterbalances that. And that's really been powerful for me personally.
I want to write so many notes.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
Counter.
I think you can help people because of what you went through, and that's bringing that to the world is really a gift. It's the wounded healer, so to speak. A lot of doctors and psychologists get into that field because of what they went through, and to help others and to serve. And Mark, you're obviously doing that, so kudos to you.
Well, thank you. I'd heard that phrase a long time ago, and it resonated when I heard it. And
Yeah.
today there are people not ready to look at their wounds.
Yeah.
But when they are, I can help.
Yeah, because you've been there, and when you've been there, you can have the perspective that you need to help people and to serve them in a different way than somebody who hasn't been there.
Yeah.
And bringing that to the table is a massive value for people to help them get through what they're getting through, because there's only a few people that can really do that, to say, I know exactly what you're feeling. I went through the same thing. And that's the whole fellowship of being part of a program, a 12-step program, is that we all understand the journey that we're taking together, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. Sorry, Laura, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's fine. Heidi's like, it's not live anywhere. So we're trying to figure it out. Gotta love tech.
It says live.
I know it says live, but then it's not where it's supposed to be.
Okay.
But that's okay. We'll figure it out behind the scenes. Mark, I want to shift a little bit, because this is Amplify Your Message. We want our audience to understand different ways that people share their message, and of course, how they relate to you. So the first question I'm going to ask is, what ways have you chosen to share your message?
Well, I've come out of a 40-year real estate broker background where, I have shared this message just with my life, with the people that I work with. As a business owner, I've coached and mentored people that have worked within my companies and within my marketplace for 40 years. And after relocating to Tennessee 3 years ago, I'm now trying to, to take that to people that I've never met before. So I'm doing that through public speaking. I have a website, timetestedmastery.com, and I really believe in that phrase. The things that I teach, or the things that I share, are time-tested principles that were taught to me by other people. And this is the opportunity for me to pass it along to other people that it can be helpful for. So it's a combination of coaching. It's a combination of public speaking.
Right.
I don't know where God's going to take me with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Again, I'm trying not to have a firm set goal. I mean, I have direction that I'm aiming for,
Right.
But I don't have an end result, because I don't want to limit myself to it.
Right. Hey, I think that's the way to go. I mean, I have the same kind of attitude. It's let's see where the universe takes me, so to speak. You do have talents, and you have something you want to bring to the world. But if you open your heart and let the universe bring you to the next chapter of your life, then who knows what could happen? I mean, so many things have happened to me and manifested in my life, having that open heart, that I never imagined would happen to me. So you're doing the right thing, Mark. I think it's wonderful that you're doing that. You'll you'll get the benefits, but also you'll be able to pass on those benefits by serving others. So, yeah, I'm right on board with you.
Yeah, I'm meeting some of the most amazing people in this
Yeah.
journey just in the last 9 months, to a year
Yeah,
of going in this direction. So pretty exciting.
that's really cool. That's really cool. So why did you go into this direction? I have a story of how I sort of, pivoted my life, but what's your story about how you pivoted? What brought you to where you are today?
Well, I think, early, as a young man, first getting into recovery,
Yeah.
you get to the point where you start expressing yourself with people and making connections with them.
Yeah.
And the most powerful words in a recovery group are the words, me too, me too.
Right.
And so I've loved that connection where people say, me too. So part of my professional development back at, I think I was probably 30, 32, something like that, as I joined Toastmasters. And I started sharing, I spent 3 years there learning how to speak. And I remember telling one of my friends towards the tail end of that, I said, Rick, I love to speak in front of people. I says, I can't imagine being paid to speak in front of people. And he said, Mark, that's why you don't get paid to speak in front of people. Right. You can't imagine it. And so here, fast forward 30 some odd years, I have the opportunity now to do something that, it makes me feel good to stand up in front of a group of people and share ideas that saved my life and might save theirs or help them along the way.
Well, you and I have a lot in common. I love your message, and that's sort of why I got into it too. And I think we're both servants, and I love that about you, Mark. And that will pay off for those that hear you, and it'll pay off for you too. Yeah. That's a great attitude.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
So obviously you speak. Obviously you're on podcasts.
Yeah.
Did you mention while I was trying to deal with tech stuff that you were also a writer? Do you write?
I may. I may. I'm hoping to do that. I'm so much learning about this new phase that I almost feel like I'm drinking water out of a fire hose. It's coming up so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this whole the May part, is it a next step for you? Is it a next dream for you? Like, did you ever imagine yourself being a writer?
Yeah, over the years, and again, is that, what's happening with me right now is sort of a fulfillment of a lot of things that were urges or desires or dreams, while I was finalizing my broker career in California. I remember, it was probably 25 years ago, I remember telling somebody I worked with, I said, I've got this idea, I want to write a book called The Passionate Parent, because I was so passionate about good parenting at the time. And she says, who'd read your book? And so I didn't read. Now, I hope she's not listening. She's probably not listening, but that's exactly the experience. So there's a lot of times we have these dreams and goals that are within us, and all somebody has to do is put a little wet blanket on it, and it may go dormant for 20 years or forever for that case. Yeah. And I'm at a place in my life now where I'm willing to take the blanket off and try.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a limited belief, right? We all have them. And, and just listening to you earlier, I can tell you that you're well on your way to your first book because you've journaled for all those years. Mm. So could be what the book is, or, that could be kind of the foundation of the book. People that journal usually are able to write books out of it. So just a thought. You may be further along than you think, Mark.
Thank you, Rob. I will go back. There's some good nuggets that I put into my life that I'm not giving up on. So maybe those are the things that need to be there.
Yeah, just sharing your experiences, strength and hope, as we say in the program, and that's what I did with mine. It's just another way to serve. You've got all these different ways you can serve on stage, podcasts, writing, articles. All kinds of ways to get your message and your voice out there. So I always encourage people to not limit the modality that you spread your message in, because you just never know what will stick.
Yeah. where I feel I'm at right now is that I have this bubble of stuff that I want to give, and I don't know where it's going to land, I guess is probably the best way to say it.
So
Yeah.
the question for that is, does it matter where it lands or how it lands?
Nope, not at all. I'm shaking my head. I better verbalize it. No, it doesn't matter where it
Okay.
lands. It matters that, it matters that I make the difference. It matters that it's fulfilling to me, and it matters that it's meaningful or helpful to somebody. It's not going to be helpful for everyone, but it will be helpful for someone.
I was never a reader per se. And one of the books that Corey gave me, that he gave me so many, it felt like a water hose, just like you. It was called An Audience of One. And I can't read who wrote it from here, but that book taught me about creating as the mess to message business owner, that old version of me and this version of me, nobody else. So if I can create something that reflects both that version and this version and makes me feel good in that relationship, then that's going to be the most helpful thing. So for you, Mark, you mentioned that you journaled this whole time.
Yes.
One of the most helpful things for both you, your past version, and your audience is that when you journaled right away in your thoughts, in your feelings, in those actions, and in those beliefs that weren't working. So now you have the raw data of the types of things that your audience is thinking, feeling, doing, and believing. So you can go back and you're like, I remember this time, but I don't remember it the same way as I journaled it. So now that I have the journal, I have that raw data, and I'm like, oh, if you get to the point where you're like, I don't remember thinking that. Why did I ever think that? That's the perfect thing to put in your book.
Yeah.
Because you're like, you've grown now from that. So then you start questioning, how has that thought changed? How has that feeling changed? That action changed? That belief changed? That's going to be your book.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
It's already half done. Like Rob was saying.
That's awesome.
And you know exactly how to help the people that you're trying to help with that book.
Yeah.
And
Go,
I
Mark.
think go ahead.
No, just high five.
Oh, thank you. I don't know that one yet. There we go. Very cool. Yeah. People are where they're at. That's why I like coaching. And so, I talked about speaking. I like coaching a lot better than I like training. And the reason that I like coaching better is, as a coach, if they're empathetic and like you are, Laura, and they recognize where people are at, you can identify where somebody's at, talk with them, and then ask them where they want to go. And the best part of a coach is that they take the person and they take that person's goals and they help move them in that direction where they want to go, rather than a trainer that says, I have this material, and they give it to everybody and say, go do something with it. Now, I like that much more personal approach to where you're talking with somebody. Where are you at? What do you aspire to do? Let's find out what's in the way, and let's start moving you forward. I love coaching. I think it's so much better than just simple training.
Well, training is like a in-person version of Google. I can just go get that on Google or AI anytime for information. What I need from you is to help me personalize it, to take that information and mold it or manipulate it into my goals and my vision and my personality and my values and all of that.
Yeah.
It's how do I embody that knowledge now, which is your job as the trainer. Knowledge, at this point, is like this much of what we do. So the coaching, is huge.
Yeah, knowledge is great, but if it's not applied, nothing happens. So.
I saw a lovely post. I want to say it was from Susan David. Maybe not, because it wasn't quite her visual aesthetic. It was something along the lines of this visual of like boxes that were over top of each other and all confusing. It said, this is your phase of learning. To get out of the mess, learn. That's what we did for a while. And then to get out of the box, or we think it's a box, then you need to, execute. That's the word that they used. So like do the thing, implement. So if you have the education, but you're still stuck, implement. And if you've been implementing, and you're still feeling stuck, well, be consistent with your implementation. And I was like, oh, this is a good one. I saved that image on my phone because I need that reminder. I will always be the person to get the next webinar, seminar, course, challenge, email list, whatever it is. But just as you're saying, Mark, we don't get those shifts until we do the thing. We dig in, we do the 12 steps. We commit to ourselves with that discipline and dedication.
And, another habit I have is going back over things that I've read before or I've done before.
Yes.
Because they keep changing what they put in the book the first time. Kind of thing. They always say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think when the student changes, the teacher seems to change too. It's pretty bizarre how going back into things you hear new things going back into stuff that you think you heard the first time or you didn't hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true. Especially reading a book is like that for me. The big book, the program, Mark. It's like every time I read it, I say, I didn't see that the first time, or the 100th time, or the 500th time. Your brain is not wired that way, so it'll see things that it wants to see. And a lot of times it does miss things, so you keep going over them, and you'll learn more. Yeah.
The road gets narrower. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Peeling back the onion.
Yeah. I love that.
Mark, if there were a creative way or a crazy cool way for you to share your message in the future that you haven't done yet, and I mean, get super creative with it, what kind of way would you want to share your message? As I get hiccups.
Have you ever seen, did you ever watch Springsteen on Broadway? Either of you watch that?
No.
Yeah, Springsteen on Broadway was a show that he did, 4 or 5 years ago where he got up for, 2.5 hours or so, and he talked about his life and his stories and played the music in the middle of it. He's talking about what was going on at, that particular time of his life when he wrote the song. And because I'm a musician, I mean, if there was a creative way to do it, it would be to share the message and play and perform music that I had written along with it that would amplify the message. That would be a creative way to do it.
Mm. We just had a comment from Forrest. He's like, Mark, keep moving forward. Remember, success is not always about the achievements you have made, but about the obstacles you had to go through to get where you are. Very inspired, sir. Honoring you again. Musician. You had me at musician. Okay. I can't tell you the amount of people here in Blue Talks who have been past musicians, are current musicians or performers, or want to be musicians and performers. There are a lot of us. We have kind of casually, jokingly talked about Blue Talks radio or a Blue Talks band or creating a theme song. Something like that.
Sounds like there's enough talent out there to do it. That's for sure.
But I love that you mentioned music, just because it's when we think of people in business who are sharing their message, it tends to be the core three. How am I getting on stages? How am I getting on podcasts? How am I going to write a book? Yes, those are 3 things that we can do, but something like music is a way. Something like writing poetry or lyrics is a way. So many. Yeah. And it fits you as a human being.
Yeah. Music was probably one of the things that helped me get through my childhood. I mean, I still remember, I think I was 5 years old, listening to the Mamas and the Papas singing California Dreamin' when I was a little kid. And, everything that comes out of my high school years, I think there's something that happens to us when we're going through puberty and the music that we're hearing, when our minds and our bodies and our hormones are changing, that music is imprinted, in our spirits. Yeah. And, I can go back to being 15 years old by the song on the radio now.
Yeah.
And pretty meaningful.
Or the smell of the ice cream truck.
Yeah. Or the sound of the bells as it goes by.
Yeah. It's funny, Mark, you and I have a lot in common. I was also a singer and actor growing up as a kid. and
Okay.
helped me get through my childhood too, and do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just meeting Mark for the first time, and we have so many things in common. So
Yeah.
I
Awesome.
love this. So, Mark, one more question before we go. I want to know, how do we find you? Where are you on social media? And of course, what is your favorite way to communicate?
Well, you can find me. The easiest way is at the website timetestedmastery.com. I do quite a few things out of there. I do a blog every week. There's an email list that you can go to that will receive regular communication from me, and obviously put you in touch with me so that we can work together in the future. A lot of information there. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and X. So I have a pretty good presence in all of those different things. I'm on LinkedIn, but I am really late to the table on that one. I need to clean that up quite a bit. That's got real estate broker information on it. It doesn't have public speaker information on it. And I would love to hear from anyone that's happy with the message they heard today, has any questions. I don't know where the world's taken me, and that's okay with me. I trust that where the world has taken me is going to be just fine.
there you go.
And looking forward to meeting new people. I love meeting you today, Rob. It was a pleasure talking to both of you.
Yeah, me too.
And Mark, I also like to hold space at the end of an interview, just in case there's something on your mind or in your heart that you feel that you need to share. So is there anything that you'd like to share?
I think one thing is to not be afraid of people, to not be afraid of people. Part of this journey, especially for salespeople, they're always afraid of rejection. So they don't want to talk with people they don't know. I don't know how you can be a salesperson and not talk to people you don't know. But there are salespeople that are afraid to talk to people they don't know. And what I'm finding is the path to all of our growth is to talk to people that we don't know. There's a fella that I just met recently. His name is Robert Heath Sr., and he said this on a podcast of mine that's going to be airing pretty soon. Is he said, whenever we're going to meet somebody new, this story flashes through our minds, and it's usually negative. I'm going to be rejected. They're not going to like to hear what I have to say. They're going to be indifferent. I mean, there's this negative message that goes through. But the opposite is that there's always a positive message too, or a positive outcome to any negative thing that we say. And Robert asked a question. He said, why would you choose the negative? And so I'm urging people to choose the positive and stop hiding from your fears.
I love that. Thank you so much, Mark. So I'm going to call this the official close of your interview.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I invite you to stay for a few more minutes. I think we have about a minute left. What is something that stood out to you, Mark, in our conversation today?
I'm a lot more comfortable than I was afraid. I'm always afraid bad stuff's going to happen, and it never does. I don't know why.
No.
But no, it was just great talking with both of you. It felt very comfortable.
Thank you. Rob, what about you? What's something that stood out to you? You're on mute.
Yeah, for me, it was how Mark and I actually are very well connected, and a lot of the same paths in life. And didn't expect that, didn't know. I went to LinkedIn and couldn't find you, so that's you need to bump that up. I know you're going to do that, but I'll tell you that I was really kind of taken back by how our lives have weaved in together, and I know that this is just the beginning of what probably can be a really good friendship between us.
Awesome.
Okay, really quickly, the thing that stood out to me, Mark, was that you didn't have to think about how you felt in that moment of your struggles. You were just like, I already have words for it. Like, I can't tell you how rare that is. So I'm going to celebrate you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Love this. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon, Mark.
All righty.
Bye.
Thanks, Mark.
Take care.
And we do have our next guest behind the scenes. Dr. I don't even know how to say your name. You'll have to correct me when you come on stage. Dr. Munira, just give me a thumbs up if you're ready to join me. Awesome. Good. Tell me how to say your name properly.
Munira Zahabi.
Munira? Oh, okay. So I did. Okay.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Good. Okay. So I like to start every interview off by just shifting some things around. We're going to play a little bit. And I like to ask the same question to get to know you as a human being. So here's my question. If you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
Compassionate, funny, and always smiling.
Aw, compassionate. You talk faster than I can write. Funny and always smiling. Always smiling. Aw. So then how do these 3 words, compassionate, funny, and always smiling, how do they play a role in the key message that you have for people?
Humor is something that everybody relates to. And it's a big thing because that makes other people drop their guard a little bit. And they kind of relate to you as a person. And most people spend a lot of money to go see comedians, right? So if they can get it for free, why not? So, and then compassionate is I want to show them that I really care about what they are going through. And I always smile because one, my mom used to say that it always keeps the other person wondering what you're up to. But it also keeps other people. Also, the other thing is that it allows people to break that ice, because some people come in with a premeditated whatever. They have a response to everything, but if you smile, it breaks that guard, and then they relate to you.
Agreed. I'm that person who I've had people go, do you ever not smile? Because sometimes it's creepy that you just keep going.
Right.
And to bring up what we were just talking about with Mark, I'm choosing the positive. There's lots around me, and I could be sad every single day of my life. But just as you do, Dr. Munira, you choose to smile.
And, that happens to a lot of the people who are hurt most in life always choose to smile because they don't want other people to see the broken pieces.
It's not that I'm going to use my own experience here. It's not that I don't want people to see the broken pieces. Is that my experience is very few people have even tried to look, let alone very few people have been able to get to that depth.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is very long. But I see both sides because, yes, that's part of it too. And I do smile to hide a lot because I'm like, I don't want to wallow because I will spiral.
Right.
And so for me, I'm like, I need to make sure that I keep my energy up. Otherwise I go, and then nobody sees me for months at a time.
Right.
So one of the great things about a smile is we know from the neuroscience it releases oxytocin. Yeah. And that's the love hormone. It's also the trust hormone and the feeling of belonging. And so it's a great gift to give somebody because sometimes they don't even realize that, but you're releasing oxytocin to them and they're feeling that love without any words. It's a powerful thing. So yeah, well said, Mary.
It also acknowledges the person that you're looking at, that, okay, I see you, I feel you, without telling them the words.
Yeah.
Just have to smile at somebody. And, in my religion, we were told that even a smile can be charity. All you have to do is smile to somebody.
I like that quote. Even a smile can be charity.
Yes.
Aww.
I love that.
I may have to put that one on my phone. That's really sweet. Can you give us a very short version, like one that I can copy paste and tell other people about? Can you give us that version of what it is that you do for people?
I help people figure out what their niche is.
Ooh.
My niche, I'm known as the niche navigator.
Yes.
And what I do is most people come into the world of entrepreneurship thinking they can do this, that, and the other without honing in exactly what it is that they want to do. Most people will be very vague. They want to help people, but doing what, right? So what I do is we laser focus into the problem and figure out what it is that they're really good at. And once they figure that out, we figure out what their ideal client is and then how to then market their message. Threefold. But I'm very good at figuring out what people are good at.
Nice. I'm going to bow down to you right now because we need more of you.
Thank you.
Oh, I can't tell you the amount of people, especially with COVID, right?
Right.
Where people have come out of the workforce, they tried the work at home thing, they're like, blah, and then they start their own businesses because they're good at the thing.
Right.
But then we need people like you to be like, okay, you do the thing, cool, but there's so much about running and starting and marketing and having a successful business that you don't know.
Yeah.
Let's have that conversation, please, so that maybe you can become a success.
And it's very important for people to figure this out. It's, I saw a long time ago, I watched a documentary, and at that time, Sears Tower here was Sears Tower in Chicagoland, and it was one of the tallest building at the time. Now the Burj Khalifa has taken over in Dubai. But when they were building the Chicago Sears Tower, they had to figure out the wind, because Chicago is the windy city, and this was right on the lakefront, not on the lakefront, but very close. So the wind, and they had to figure out how deep they had to go and build their foundation so that they could build it as tall as they wanted to go. So that documentary moved my whole being, because that's exactly what a niche does. It's your foundation. You have to go deeper. And most people are afraid to go deeper. They will not do it. I think she's frozen.
That's okay. I love what you just said. I think it's profound because it's being what I call a student of your game. That's kind of what you're saying. To be able to go deep into where you are and what you're doing. I think it's important that that people understand that that's how they grow and that's how they get better in life and business. Right? Both. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah, it's important. I love that. I love that. So how do you actually apply some of those principles to what you do on a daily basis with what you do?
Well, so it takes a lot of back and forth, and I like the one-on-one. So when
Yeah.
I first start to work with people, I have a 30-minute call to see if they are going to be available to just talk about stuff. And then if they would decide to work with me, then we have a 2-hour call where we literally go deep diving. You're not just scraping the surface, we go deep dive. And it doesn't usually take just one session, it takes a few.
Yeah.
But I have to look at their mindset. I also have to look their tenacity, and also have to figure out what are they really serious about what they want to do. Because then some people, when I ask them to do the work and give them homework, they don't ever come back.
Right.
So that's another thing. But when I do work, and the successful people that I have worked with, it has really worked for them, because they literally could pinpoint, because I could see what they had. The idea on having these conversations, and it's really hard work in the sense that I have to work with each individual separately, and it's not a cookie cutter process.
Right.
The reason for that is I have to go deep dive in and to figure out what I can see is what they have to see. And
Sure.
most people, we don't see what we, as even when I was going through my own journey, couldn't see what I was good at. I just wanted to do this and that and the other and be a copycat cat somewhere else, only to realize that that wasn't what I was made out to be. This is what I was made out.
Right. Right. You had to find your niche, right? Where you could, what was your superpower, right?
Right.
Once you found your superpower, then you're able to kind of pass that on and then add value to your clients. So I get that. I get that. I'm curious, like what's like your most profound question that you ask where you get the most insight from your clients? you talked about how you have to kind of deep dive and kind of find out more about them. What's a question that you sort of go to kind of get that, what's that foundation like?
So the one thing that I ask them is, if money was not an object, and if you didn't have anything else to worry about, what is it that you really want to do? And the first top layer, the topsoil question is, I want to help people. The answer is that's the answer. But then you go deeper in, and it really, and the thing is, I don't have a set of questions, because I take what they give me and make a question out of that. And it really allows me to see what they have. And most people want to be a coach, and they want to just, I'm going to do this as a business because they think they're good at that. But you don't know that business is not just business itself, just, okay, I'm going to bake a cake and I'm going to sell it. You still have to tell people that you're a baker. If you don't show up and talk about this, that's why then my tagline is, give your business a voice, because most people don't give their business a voice. They just talk about stuff. And most of them, if you go to a networking event, they'll hide behind the curtains, if you will, and not come out and not tell us. I mean, they'll have a 30-minute elevator speech. Oh, I help finances and I help them money grow and this. But exactly why, how, what, when? Why don't you just give me the whole spiel instead of letting me ask you bit by bit by bit? And that's the problem is, but when you start building those pieces that they give you, and what really works is I record the conversation, then I piece it together, and now you have AI, so they piece it together for me. It's easier now. So then you put it together, and then when you show them that piece, this is exactly what you want to do, they'll say, but that's not what I want to do. This is what your niche is supposed to be, right? It takes a long time for them to figure it out.
Yeah, it's interesting. Welcome back, Laura. We kept going. We're fine. All good. So we were just talking about how she gets more connected to her clients by asking the right questions and being curious. That's kind of what we do.
I was very intrigued when I saw Niche Navigator. I was like, oh, that is a sweet title. I was so excited because I get you. The conversations that I have with people, I call it courageous connection, but really it's about looking at the emotional dip behind the stories that they're trying to share with people.
Right.
Because it's never about the story or the thing or the skill. Yeah. It's always about the journey that they needed to go through. Right. And so when they shift along their business, they think that their niche changes, but really it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It always is the same.
Exactly. So then they have these 50 titles and you're like, no, you don't have 50 titles. You have one.
Right.
You're the niche navigator.
I mean, I've been the niche navigator for almost 8 years now. And I've loved every bit of it. But even in my own segment, I've had to change courses a little bit, but it's not me changing my identity. It's just changing the branching out. I feel like it's like a tree. If you have one root, one trunk, but then you have to branch out because you have to find ways where you can get your sunlight and nutrients and photosynthesis can happen and all of that stuff. So you have to go that way, but you have to branch out. But the root remains the same.
The root is the same. I call it the expression of the business, like a piece of art, right? Like today I'm going to do this art, but it's not going to be the same art as tomorrow.
Right.
It may be similar, but my style is going to evolve as I evolve. But that's what finding the niche really means in business is how do you find something that aligns with who you are and the identity that you're stepping into? Because people forget that identity is a part of it. But I know that you know that. So high five to you.
Thank you.
It's the shift as you grow, not who you were 5 years ago.
Oh, exactly. And my mentor always says, you're not the same person you were yesterday.
Nope.
So you always grow and you have to change.
Yeah. I've been to a couple challenges and events where they're like, new you 2.0 and like, what's the next level of you? And I'm like, I think I'm on level 147 right now.
No, 2.0 is gone.
Oh no, 2.0 is, I don't know, 40 years ago.
Like I just got a notification that Windows 10 will not be available for services. Windows they're not going to take care of Windows 10, so you're going to be out of luck. You have to upgrade. And I was like, do I really want to upgrade? But I have to, because if I want the support, I don't ever need the support, but you just feel like you want to. So why is it that we want our softwares to be upgraded and we don't upgrade ourselves?
Right.
I like that. But then I think the many of us who do follow the personal development side of things, I love that there are different versions of us. They're the business owners who are like, we completely understand that our business is a reflection of who we are as a human being. And so if I dive in on personal development to help me, it's going to help my business. But then there's the other side of people who are like, business or personal development, it's just this woo-woo stuff to help you think differently, and it's a cult. And I'm like, okay, you play over in that corner. And you can literally be stuck in the corner, and I'll have all of this to play with.
See, so the thing is, and I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but in America, personal development is a big thing. It is now touching the world outside of America, but most of the people who have a degree and are educated don't think that they need any more education. I go into businesses and I talk to them, and I see a certain species of people, if that's the right way to say it, they just, no, I'm good. I don't need this. But you do, because how are you going to grow your business if you don't grow yourself? I mean, look at what we've gone through. I mean, I'm dating myself, but I started out at 3.1, Windows 3.1. That's when I had my very first computer, and I was thinking, oh my God, this is so wonderful. And then 6 months later, we had 95 that kept crashing, Windows ME that kept crashing. They had the best version of 95. It was the wonderfulest, best ever. But then they had to go make it, I don't know, now we are at 11. But the thing is, we've gone through a phone that was attached to the wall, right? We couldn't move, and we had to stand there by the wall. And then finally we decided we'll get a chair there and talk to people. We've gone to from records to CDs, cassette tapes to CDs, and to everything else, and we've just gone forward in life. Now we stream our music. So we've gone through the biggest and hardest changes in life, our generation. And the thing is, when we go through these changes, we have to keep up. Now we have AI. And are you as an entrepreneur using AI in your business? For some, I'm so scared. I don't want to do this. This is not right. Hello, if you don't keep up, you're going to be left behind. So let's get with the program here. Even if it's not, just use it for something. But then those people who use it are awed and amazed at how much they can do. But then there are the naysayers who are going, it knows too much about me. Well, that's what they're training it to do, so that you don't have to do the thinking. But is it good? Is it bad? I don't know, but you have to keep up with the program. So we have to evolve, and we have to keep evolving every single day. And there are programs out there. There's things out there that you're thinking, oh my, now we used to write our emails 2 months ago without having any AI help. But now you put it together and it's going to say, do you want me to fix the version that you just wrote? It's going to put a comma there you missed it and an apostrophe where you missed it. That's fine and dandy, but it's going to reword everything so that it's more professional looking. I like that. So, I'm just saying that that's something that you have to keep evolving. And as an entrepreneur, you have to keep doing that.
I've heard the phrase, if you're not growing, then you're dying. And I like phrases with a grain of salt, but then I also know that there are other versions where I'm like, that might not be true. But what is it that you like to say to yourself as you're, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess adding in these new technologies or playing with these new technologies where it's not always something that people are excited about. Some people are more reserved. How do you see it?
I see it as a learning tool. This is just a tool. It's an additional tool in my toolbox. You know, my
Yeah.
husband used to be an HVAC guy, and he used to stock up his truck and everything. He used to say, I need all the tools. If I have to leave his patient, his AC open, and has to go and buy another part, that's more time wasted and, you know, not caring for his patient. So he has to have all the tools. And that was his analogy. And for me, it's, you know, I feel I'm much in a much more better place compared to people in my friends group. I'm not talking about entrepreneurial friends, but friends that I am close with. They don't use it. They don't touch it. They don't do anything. There's no personal growth happening, nothing. They don't read books. They like, you know, other things that I don't like. So I stand out like a sore thumb, but they're good friends. And I like that because we enjoy the good food and we enjoy the time that we have together. I don't impose anything on them. They'll tell me that I need to watch this drama and that drama. But I'm like, that's not what I want to do in my life. I mean, maybe later, 15, 20 years later, if I'm still around, I'll watch a drama, but I want to learn more that's happening because things are evolving so fast I can't keep up. And why not? But they're not entrepreneurs. I am. So I'm always looking for these nuggets and little tidbits that I can always write in my phone and say, "Oh, this is good. I need to put this in my notes and use this somewhere else, like you did." You took the nuggets. We need to do that because then, how do you see things differently? Because if we are in an art class and we all were in art class and we were looking at this portrait that we had to make, every person is going to have a different view. Even though we are looking at the same thing, it's on their paper, it's going to be a different thing. But we have to learn what we see. We have to see what we have to take what we see and put it into progress, effect. It's such a wonderful process right now. And I feel like this information and technology age is just so wonderful. I love it when my kids are using it, but they're my kids. Yeah, I want people in my own age group to use it and go forward and get better. There's so much we can do with this stuff.
I mean, we have to also think of the point of why these things were created. To save us time, to save us energy, to save us money, to make things easier. But if we don't use them, then we can't have a language to have a conversation about how to use them better or more ethically or more productively.
You know, I was introduced to I was looking at one gentleman who has wizards. He had wizards, and he had this program where he was just showing us different wizards that can do stuff. Of course, at that time, ChatGPT was not out in the open, and maybe he had access to it. I have never figured that out yet. But it was doing wonderful things. It would create my profile for me, do a lot of different things that I did. And this was, I'm talking 4 years ago. Now he's evolved and incorporated the ChatGPT into his things, you know, and people are doing such wonderful things. You can write your resume, you can write music, you can write your own books, but they've taken that software and modeled it and add spices to it in such a way where it does what you really need to do. All you have to do is find the link. And that's the thing. So to me, it's like if you're not like you said, if you're not learning, you're dying. But I enjoy this, and the fact that this soft, you know, when I was working with Jim's software, and then a friend told me, he goes, you know, why are you paying $29 each month to use his software? There's something called ChatGPT out there. Okay, it was free at that time. I'm talking 3 years ago now. And it was free and we could use it. And oh my God, unlimited stuff. And then all of a sudden, okay, you can only use it so limited, and then otherwise you pay us. And of course that was coming because they wanted people to use. This is their way to make revenue. But the fact is that, you know, when I looked at with the wizards and I was looking at ChatGPT, it was two different things. But now if you look at Jim's software, it's just amazing because he's incorporated everything. And wow, it's like, oh, I can do this. And it's so much fun. All you have to do is just find a little bit of time, figure out what you want to do, plug it in, and you have a voila, whatever you want, a short story or this thing. I write little things for my grandkids and I share with them. And now I'm learning how to incorporate like videos in such a way that they have cartoons and stuff, but they have my voice in it. And so you can do that, and you're living your legacy. So it's I would die to hear my mom's voice again. We didn't have that. I had my friends a few years, about 10-15 years ago, my friend's son passed away, and she kept his phone just only to listen to his voicemail. She would call the phone and she pays for it even to this day. So there's no way we can take that and put it out in the world. But the fact now is that you can create your own voice and leave a legacy only for your family. And I want my grandkids to say, that's my grandma. She wrote books and she did this, and look at her. She's out there in the world. So my oldest one is always, are you writing another book? Are you writing another book? Come here and write a book with me, So the fact is that they are more interested and intrigued about all this also. And the fact that they are using it in their daily life and how to dress. And, my granddaughter who is 12, she wants to do her hair a certain way. So ChatGPT tells her to do certain things. And I'm like, you're using ChatGPT to put on makeup? You don't know. This is amazing, Grandma. This is amazing. So the fact is that they are evolving just as we are evolving. But we have, as entrepreneurs, to figure out how we can take this technology and use it. And, I said I'm dating myself. So at my age, if I'm using this, I feel pretty proud.
You said you were aging yourself, but my first computer was MS-DOS. So, I get it. You're like, okay, I have to type in all the code.
I had MS-DOS, but I couldn't understand it. But then the guy said, oh, they have something called 3.1. And I said, oh, I want that. And it was a GUI thing, even to this day where I work, they have a system where people use the old system where they go to the black screen and type in the codes. I don't remember that. I am a visual person. I need to see the GUI stuff, and they'll tell me, Munira, that's never going to work. And I have to write. I literally have a book where I have all of the codes written down for work. And it's like, how do you remember such things? I'm not going to ever remember stuff. Just let me see, be visual. So it's time that they need to go get with the program. But I don't know. One day it's going to happen. So
I'm going to shift the conversation a little because you mentioned writing and creating videos with your own voice, which is so cute. So cute. Did you always see yourself as a writer? Is it something that you always loved?
Yes, I've always loved writing. I was a great English student in back home where I come from. I've always thought that I need to write my novel, but I haven't done it. But I do have 8 books under my belt that I have wrote for business purposes. My latest book is Invisible No More, and it talks about marketing and using podcasts as a marketing strategy.
Do you have any of the books beside you so that we could see them?
I do not. Actually, these are all
online
Kindle books. But I do have one that I did publish, but right now in the process of moving, so I'm packing as well. So everything is in boxes.
Yeah. Okay. You're like, in this box.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I had the book only out yesterday and I packed it yesterday. So I was like, dang it, I should have not done that.
Okay. That's okay. Because I'm a visual person, just as you had mentioned. And so when I see the cover of a book and I go to look things up later, I don't always remember all the things, but I remember the visual.
Well, there's only one Munira Zahabi, and if you Amazon type me, you'll find all my books.
Nice.
Yeah, there's one only. There's one in the world, Munira Zahabi, only one. I Googled myself all the time.
So if you've always been a writer, is there a way that you have or would like to share your message that felt uncomfortable for you?
I am going to write my book. This is going to be my sort of my autobiography about the things that I went through. Like we talked about the fact that you smile a lot because you have heart. So that is going to show up in the book. I've been told that I need to write my story, but the fact is that I haven't yet acquired enough courage to do that.
Oh,
So
can I
that's in the
challenge you a
process.
little?
That's in the process of being acquired.
Can I challenge you just a little?
Sure.
You said you don't have courage or a whole lot of courage. So then what is something that will grow or amplify your courage that you could do in the next 5 minutes?
No, I have courage. I have to, let me rephrase. I have courage to do anything. Only this book, because it does require for me to go into the dark passages of my past life.
Mhm.
That courage is what I'm trying to acquire. But I can do it. As a woman, I can do anything. So the fact is that the thing is that if you challenged me, yes, I can. I would talk to you about my whole life story. But the fact is that do I really want to, I can talk to people about it, but do I really want to write it in a book so that it comes out?
Yeah.
Because I always fear, and the reason of that is that it's going to affect my children. So do I want them to walk that path with me as well?
Yeah. And depending on the age that they are, that might be as simple as having that conversation. But if they're really young, then it's not quite that simple.
Yeah, older kids. I have older kids.
Yeah.
But they, they've got to a point where they've kept people in their life. They have, they have a set pedestal for them. I don't want to take that and just put it in, take it through dirt. So that's why I'm a little bit hesitant. But one of these days, who knows? With the aid of ChatGPT and book writing software, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. Aw. So then that hesitation that you have for wanting to write down some of these vulnerabilities, that's mostly what I call that courageous connection.
Right.
Right? It's there's so much there for people when they share their message that takes courage. And I love that you said that women are courageous. I'm learning to practice that every day.
Oh yeah. Oh, you give a task to a woman and she'll do it. She'll do it. I've done it too. So I mean, I'm nothing against men, but we are always looked upon as vulnerable, especially women of color and women from other countries. And you can't do this, and why can't I do this? I mean, I fight with the people in my church all the time. So why? And they're like, you're the only one who bothers us with these questions. And I said, everybody else needs to start thinking like me.
Yeah.
I think I was born in a different time. I was supposed to be born way ahead of time, but they just put me in this era right now. But then I challenge a lot of people also, and they always tell me, why is it that only you have these thoughts? And I said, maybe the women other than me do have these thoughts, but they just don't have the courage to speak up. I will speak up.
I had, those random messages that we send to ourselves. So I had a random thought about that about a month ago. And the concept was that if we allow ourselves to explore the thoughts that we do have, it's like being able to climb the ladder or to climb the next step in order to see that next level of thoughts. So if we shut ourselves down, we never get to those upper level thoughts or those extended pathway thoughts. We're just here. Right. But in order to have that expanse, like you have to be able to climb the ladder or continue along the same path.
That's where self-growth comes in, right?
Yeah.
personal development and self growth, because you have to learn how to grow to a point where where do you want to go. I ask women all the time, people that I work with, where is it to go from here? And they don't know. I ask them, what is it that you want? Oh, I have everything I need. You really? Then why are you shopping on Amazon all the time? So that's what worries me about this thing is, if you have what you need, then you don't need anything else. Or is this a need or a want? And see, when you ask questions like that, especially with my friends, when I do ask questions like that and I do get into it, they think I am being psychological or philosophical, and then they get angry at me, and then they just leave the conversation because they don't want to explore it. But the fact is that you need to explore it, because are we not learning? You're all in a job. You're all learning. Every job has training. You're all learning that stuff. Why is it okay for your employees to tell you to learn the next step of your job? Why can't you learn what you want in the next step, in your own life? This could
That's
get
my drop.
this could this this could get really philosophical.
I love every minute of that, but we'll have to do more of it later. At this point, I have to ask you, where do we find you and what your favorite way to communicate is?
You can find me as thenichenavigator.com and use the contact me page to get to me. And way to communicate, if you send me a message, I'm everywhere on LinkedIn and social media, but I like that form because then I can communicate through my own software, and we have that everything in one place.
Because of tech. See, there you go. I also like to hold space at the end of an interview, just in case there's something on your mind or in your heart that you want to share. So what would you love to share with the audience?
Learn. Never stop learning. Always be curious. That's one thing that I want to know. I always wanted to be curious. I remember the first thought I had was, I remember standing next to my parents. They were talking to a couple. The lady was taller than the man. I don't know their names. She was a little bit taller, and that never happens in the world, right? But I was short, small, about 3 years old, and I asked them, I said, how is this auntie and this uncle, are they married? What is going on here? And my mom said, shh, people don't talk like that. And I was very, very amazed as to why they didn't answer the question. And they were married. I, of course, found out later that they were married. I don't know if they were engaged at the time. I don't know what happened. But I was curious. So I wanted to know. So never stop asking why, because you may just find that you opened up a door and you want to walk into that world.
Do you follow Simon Sinek?
No, not
No.
really. I've read his books, but I've not followed him religiously.
Okay. So you understand his concept of start with why.
Right.
Yeah.
That's he wants you yourself to ask, but you see something, you want to know why, just
exactly.
Why is this happening?
But that's one of the practices he gets people to do, is keep asking that why and find out when it stops changing.
I think he stole
and that so relates to your niche.
Yeah, he stole my idea, but we would get it. I'm older than him, so he stole my idea.
Oh my God. You are funny. I'll give you that.
I want to say thank you so much, Dr. Munira, for being here with us. I'm going to call this the official close to your interview. So thank you.
What do you do with these interviews? Can I ask you that?
Sure. So the next few minutes, we're just going to reflect a little, and this is more for social media. So these interviews are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, but then also they're put on, I think it's Roku and Amazon and online TV now, and there's conversations for more things. It just keeps growing. So who knows where this is going to end up in like 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
3 months?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So over the next couple minutes, I like to do a little bit of reflection.
Sure.
So I'm going to start with Rob this time to shift it up. Rob, what is something that stood out to you during our conversation with Dr. Munira today?
I think the doctor flows very well. She has a really good flow state where I really enjoyed listening to her and her principles. I think that she brings so much creativity, I know, to her business and her coaching. I can see her clients really getting a lot out of the sessions because she is very present. I can feel that. I can feel that smile and that love coming through, even through the video. It's really cool to see that from somebody. So I can imagine that you are a very successful coach with your clients. And if people are not following you, they need to. I've been kind of looking around at your social media and what you represent, and you're bringing some really, really great things to the world. And I hope you keep going and keep impacting those around you. So thank you for sharing your love and vision with us today.
Thank you, Rob.
Aw, that was so sweet. So what about you, Dr. Munira? What is something that stood out to you during our conversation?
I think I can talk to anybody. In fact, I can talk to anybody. So that's a quality that I have, and I like that quality. I never want that to go away from me. The fact that I was able to answer all your questions correctly and not have a hiccup, that was amazing.
Correctly.
Well done. Well done.
The role, like he said, the role was fun.
Well, you mentioned to be curious.
Right.
That's what I told Rob his job was today. I was like, your only job is to lead with curiosity.
Perfect. See? That's awesome.
And then
all on one page.
Exactly. Because I don't ever want this to feel like you're on the hot seat and I'm just going to suck out every bit of insight and value that you have and then impart it on the... No, I want to get to know the human being. And so it's like, if we lead with curiosity, then who knows where the conversation is going to go. Right. But it's my job to be able to bring it back. True. And it's all connected, so it's really easy to bring it all back. So one of my favorite things that came up today, okay, 2. 1 was the be curious. Okay, 3, I lied. Even a smile can be charity.
Yeah.
That was such a great quote. I thought of it that way. Like, I know that I'm helping somebody else have a good day by just making eye contact and smiling. But to know that, I guess it's the energy of the word charity, the idea behind charity, where it's not just something simple. It can literally change somebody's life.
Yeah.
Or day.
Or day. It's all good. Like, oh, that feels good.
Yeah.
Okay, and the third thing, because I forgot about those 2, was that you being able to incorporate all this new technology and not be, I guess I'm going to say, limited by how people think you should be or how you should talk or what you should use. That you are very much the courageous person that's like, I want to try all the things so that I can do my job better, so that you can feel better about the things that you do too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I could inspire one person to do that.
Yeah.
Just doubled my audience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And technology, it is going way too fast for us to keep up with all of it.
Right.
But I just want to celebrate that you are using it in a way that helps you to serve. So just thank you. Thank you.
Well done.
So I want to say again, thank you so much for being here. This was a pleasure.
I appreciate it.
Also, I love your lipstick.
Oh, thank you.
I was admiring this whole time. It's like, doesn't match my outfit today. I was going to wear my Boulder one.
There you go. You take care. Thank you, guys.
All about woman power. It's awesome.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.
We do have our next guest in the background.
Okay,
Will just give me Yeah, there you go. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready to join us. Hi.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Good. I will let you know that StreamYard did give me a warning about backgrounds. So
Oh.
if you're having issues, it might kick you off, but then come back and shut off the background.
Okay.
Okay.
I could remove my background too.
Well, whatever you're comfortable with. We don't seem to have any issues yet.
Okay.
It's all good. Welcome, Will.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm from New Jersey, so good morning. Rob, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to
Laura,
meet you
nice
too,
to
Will.
meet you
Welcome.
too.
Yeah.
It's afternoon here, and my stomach
Oh.
is like, why haven't you eaten yet? I will after. But I have to interview Will. So, Will, I like to start off interviews a little differently because I don't want your elevator pitch. I don't want your pre-programmed responses. I want to get to know you as a human being first. Because to me, that's really important. I don't want you to feel used. I want you to feel human. So here's the question that I have. If you could have other people describe you in just 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
I guess the first word is caring.
Mhm.
Someone who cares about other people. As a leader, I think that's what I focus on. I focus on my people, how I cared about them. Number 2, I would say kind. I'm always kind to people. I think we're all in this world for a purpose, one of which to make this world better than when we came in. And I think I believe in that solely. And the last word will be resilient.
Ooh.
I went through a lot in my life, and I continue to push through because I believe that every day is an opportunity that was given to us, and we have to make the most of it.
Agreed. I'm going to make a reflection back at you first, and then I'll ask my next question. The caring, the kind, and the resilient, those tend to be the top 3 out of the top 5-ish words that I keep hearing from this question.
Oh, interesting.
But most of the people I interview are entrepreneurs. So then the question lies is it more of an energy of an entrepreneur? Or is it more of an energy of the people that I attract? Like, this would be the next version of this question. But what I want to know from you is, what do those 3 words, caring, kind, and resilient, how do they have to do with the core message that you have for people?
Well, I first want to clarify because I wasn't really an entrepreneur until last year. I started my business in
You still
August.
are.
I work in technology for many Fortune 500 firms for many years. So, but I think those 3 words came from, I think, my upbringing, the way I was raised, the way I grew up, how I fought through life challenges, and because of the things that I experienced, I felt it's great to actually use that as my core principle to live my life and help people, because I do believe that it's important for us to help one another to get to where we need to be, right?
Yeah. Agreed. the collaboration and the community that can be a part of entrepreneurship is magical. And I want to take a moment to just remind the solopreneurs. Are you a solopreneur? Do you work on your own, Will?
No, I have 2 other business partners.
See, there you go. But you'll see the difference in this because you have a team, you have partners and a teammate that you've chosen for the long haul. Solopreneurs think that we're by ourselves, but we're not. We just get to choose our team every single day or every single project.
There you go.
So we're never alone. We're never alone.
You form your tribe whenever you want to.
Exactly. So, Will, can you give us a little copy paste version of what it is that you do so that we can have a simple version to tell other people?
Copy paste. In short, what we do is we created a company that focuses on helping organizations do succession planning, because succession planning is one of those people take for granted until someone important left their firm. And then we also help company do cultural alignment, especially when they do acquisition, merger and acquisition. We want to help them reestablish what their new core value is. Are their mission and vision, and how do they want to proceed? Because even when two organizations comes together, it doesn't mean that we take one or the other. Usually, you have to find that blend. And the third thing that we do is we help company with leadership development to grow their people, to elevate their people, to level up. Like we have three programs that we set up: emerging leader, senior leader, and executive program. And then we use executive coaching to help people grow and reflect on their journey and be able to figure out the challenges that they're going through and how they solve it.
I love all of that. As a solopreneur, I have not thought about succession until a couple months ago when I had a friend of mine shift her financial business to start talking about that. I'm like, oh, that's probably something I should at least have in the back of my mind instead of avoiding the conversation this whole time. But
Yeah, I think Will, your message it resonates with me. I spent also 4 decades in corporate America and as a go-to-market executive. So I'm looking at your background here and knowing that you spent quite a bit of time USB and financial industry. So bringing some of that best practices into the new world in the speed of life and business that we have to deal with today, it's got to be rewarding. I'm curious some of the key principles that you're bringing in, especially you mentioned I know that succession planning, I've been part of that as well, but I really globbed onto the culture. I've gone through a lot of M&As and I've merged cultures as a leader, and I know how difficult that can be. So what are some of the core things you bring to the table for your clients and making sure they not only merge those cultures, but develop cultures that will thrive again as they come together?
One of the things we helped our client do is visualize what that future would look like and help them step back and identify what are the core values. You asked me the 3 things that I represent. What are the 5 things that the company would represent going forward?
Yeah.
And how does that align to their past? Because if you were able to identify what part of your past going into the future, you'll be able to connect them properly. And if you find that the thing that you identify to be your future are not in your past, what do you need to learn in order to get there? Because if you don't have it before, it's not just going to magically happen. You
Sure.
need to figure out how you learn it. What's the pathways to where you want to be? And I think that's extremely important as you help the company reestablish what I call their future.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And you use the word manifest, which we know personally. I'm a big proponent of that, and manifesting your future as an individual, personal development. We're kind of all in that same kind of realm. But mentioning it as a corporate to manifest their future, that's very unique. And I think that's really cool. I'd love to kind of double click on that. How do you do that? How do you kind of activate those cultures and that leadership to kind of manifest? It used to be woo-woo to talk about this stuff, and you're going into top executives that are merging large companies. How do you get them on board? What are some of your secret sauces?
To me, it's about vision planning, right? We do vision board with individual. You could do vision board in organization, right? I think it's powerful to have vision board. And every corporation that's a perfect example. Every corporation they have a vision of where they want to be. Not just making money is one aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. It's very important. So I'm going to highlight that already. But also, what is the purpose of the company? And being able to visualize that and paint that picture and create that vision board is a starting point for them to now set up their true north. And if all of them could picture that and they all contribute to create that picture, that's even more powerful in making people champion that cause that you have versus, oh, I was just being told to do this. We have a new company. I'm just being told to do this. We're all going to do this. And if you're all senior people, you all need to buy into what you're trying to do. So going through that exercise of creating that vision board and then aligning what you're doing and how you could contribute that, in a way, is manifesting what your future look like. The vision board is your future, right? And you're working toward getting to that future. And that's why I love vision board, because you can look at the vision board every day. And even when you're having a day of struggle, when you look at the vision board, you could see what your future look like, and that could inspire you to fight another day, right? To me, that to me is extremely important as organization that helps companies move forward in one unified direction.
That's wonderful. I love that. And by the way, that's one of the 6 human needs, right? Love and connection, or having
Yes.
a common goal, and we all need that. And there isn't enough of that talked about in business. I mean, I love talking about that, love in business, and that you just meant that's exactly what you're talking about. That you know, what's the common goal? You're all reaching toward that. And Laura, you mentioned the Simon Sinek world of why and finding your why. And Will, I when I talk to executives, is so they can tell me 2 hours of what they do and how they do it. But I ask them why they do it, and it's crickets, you know, because they haven't really thought of it yet, right? So yeah, well, and it's not just the money. I love that you said that, right? And so you're bringing a new perspective. So kudos to you, Will. I love what you're doing, and
Thank you.
yeah, I love it. Yep.
I want to reflect a little bit too. When you use the word manifest, I remember a time when I used to at the word manifest. But at that point in my life, I had 2 favorite websites, dictionary.com and thesaurus.com. So I went to dictionary.com and I was like, okay, why do I hate this word so much? So I typed it in. And the definition of manifest, the first one up there was to prove. And I was like, oh. So why was I resisting this straightforward word this whole time? And it was because it had also a link to the spiritual side of life, and I wasn't really connected to that. But it's both to prove, to like spiritually prove. It's the same kind of thing. But I also wanted to read a quote off of my vision board, my mood board. It says, I never thought I'd do something like that until I did. And when I read it, it gave me goosebumps.
Right? Sometimes
how many
times people tell you can't get it done, and as you try to prove them wrong, right? You realize that they can't get it done, not you. It wasn't you. They're talking about themselves, but they're reflecting it on you. And if you absorb that energy, it put the lights out of your candle.
Ooh.
So you do yourself a disservice because someone tried to blow your candle of life, and you let them. You should shield them from saying those things to you, because that's a reflection of them, not a reflection of you.
So I think you're also in my brain because synchronicities, I saw a post earlier with some candles in it, and it reminded me of the podcast cover that I'm trying to create and how I talk about candles all the time. Like us being in a cave, it's dark, just got to light each other's candles and we can find our way out. That's what we're doing here, is we're creating that spark. We're lighting our own candle. And in something like corporate, it feels sometimes as though we're just a candle in the middle of a cave, completely lost. But when you start to put in the succession plan and the leadership and the cultural intermingling, I guess I'll use that word for lack of a better word. Now all of a sudden, you're having one of those, what do they call it? Candlelight concertos. If you've ever heard of those, where they have the stage full of candles and the music is playing and everybody comes together for the magic of a group of candles. So, Will, I want to take that concept and that idea of the warmth that comes from the candles, that synchronicity vision there. And I want to ask you about the coming together of different cultures, because it's going to be the same thing in entrepreneurship as it is in corporate.
Yes.
Especially with the buyouts and the mergers and that kind of stuff. How do you, other than the vision and the shared future part, how do you get individuals to understand what it takes to have a shared conversation of culture in a safe and open way so they can get to those other places?
I think it's focusing on culture acceptance, right? Accepting each other's culture, or I would say cultural awareness. And even in my prior company, we do this. We create a session and discussion for people to understand each other better, because sometimes there's certain culture, and I'm a perfect example of it. I came to the US. I was born and raised in the Philippines. My parents were from China, moved to the Philippines. So when I first came here, I work as a consultant. My manager always wondered if I understood him or not, because I was a software developer. He would give me all these requirements, sit there for 30 minutes, start talking, and I wouldn't ask. I would just nod my head, write notes, nod my head. And at the end of the discussion, he said, "Are you good?" I'm like, "Yes." And I would just walk away. And for a while, he said, "I didn't understand whether you got my message or not." And one day he asked me, he's like, "But you keep on producing good code, even though you didn't ask me any question, or you look." I look like I'm talking the whole time, and I said, "Well, that's part of our culture. We don't ask questions unless we really have to, right? We don't chime in because we like, even my dad always said, like, don't be the noisiest person in the room. Just try to be quiet and learn and absorb from one another." And I always not don't want to, like, especially in big crowd early on in my career, you won't see me like raising my hand. I have a question. A lot of people like love the limelight, like, "Hey, my name is this and that, and this is my question." You wouldn't see me doing that because it's just part of the culture. So if you understand each other's culture, you could then make the most of it. So because even when I was moving up as a leader, I would make it a point to say, let head so and so share their thoughts for us, and those are the quiet people in the room. Or I would purposely say, let's go in circle and ask each person to speak their mind, what they thought about the topic that we're discussing. That would then allow every single person to contribute. But understand the cultural dynamics and the cultural norm that each person has. Now you're able to maximize that. And if they chose not to speak up during those moments, you respect them. But then you give them that platform or an opportunity to speak their mind. It's very powerful. A lot of people end up saying something that probably the best idea we never thought of. And those are the things where you then reiterate later on in subsequent meeting that says, "Remember, we had that discussion and so said this," and that ended up to be the best idea for that project. And they'll be like, "Yeah, that's the power of letting everyone speak." And that's because we understand the cultural dynamics, and allowing people to partake in that and experience it is even more powerful than just talking about it, and having the leader that exercise that. And those are the things we try to communicate to. That's why the cultural assessment is so important, because the cultural assessment gives you the feedback that you don't know about the team that you're inheriting. Because the cultural assessment, because they would sometimes leadership would say, "We're doing really well, we're amazing," but on the ground you hear a different undertone, right? And having the cultural assessment, having two parts of it, allow us to be able to hear or feel that undertone a little bit and pick up on it and start having that dialogue with the leaders, not in a way to alert them, but saying, "Hey, here's what we're hearing," right?
Yeah, when I worked in corporate, there was very much like the hush hush conversations, the
Yeah.
undertone. And then you go from one side of the office and you'd feel one way, and then you'd go to the other side of the office and you'd feel something completely different. And then you'd come together and you'd feel something else. But then corporate was like, "No, this is what's going on." And you're like, how? Mm. And so you're left in confusion, sometimes not knowing what next step to take. You're
True.
like, I don't know. And then you're just confused. Confused people don't take action.
Well, to
So,
share an experience, I think in the last organization that I worked for,
yeah.
we had what we called engagement as a survey every year.
Mhm.
And one year we didn't score that well. I think we scored in like 68, 69 percentile.
Oh.
And we as the senior leader were talking about what do we do with this. And I was the first one to say, why don't we ask our people what they want to do? Because they're the one who told us that this is the score. So there is something to it. And instead of us here sitting and talking about how we're going to change the engagement score, we should pull in the people, pull in a couple of people, create a subcommittee, have them think through this particular topic and tell us what they want us to do. Like, what activity do they want? How What are the things we need to do better? And by doing that, the score like shift a lot. In like a year, it shift like 20 points. And then furthermore thereafter. And that was the power of handing the people that are closest to the issue that was being stated to actually work on it. Right? There's a saying that says the person that could solve the problem is the person on the ground, not the person on the top. Because the person on the ground see it day to day and know what's going on.
Yep. Do you see a correlation between the types of answers that those employees would give about increasing engagement to the way that we would increase engagement on social media?
Correlation. It's a bit different in social media.
I know. That's why I'm like, is there? Maybe.
No, I don't know if there's a direct correlation because social media has, in my opinion, has two flavor. One of those that just does things to get attraction and just get the clicks, right?
Mhm.
And there's another one where they go out there to really connect with the audience. Like Simon Sinek is one of them. My favorite author, Simon Alexander Ong, the author of Energize, is another one.
Oh.
He put out content that really meant to connect with people, not just to gather clicks, right? So when people watch their video, they watch longer part of the video. I think those are the two different. So I think it's a bit different. And a lot of company they don't leverage social media a lot. They do campaigns, they do advertisement, but they don't use social media in the context where a lot of entrepreneur like me would actually use social media.
Yeah. But I do like that you made the distinction between the attention seeking and the actual human to human connection.
Yeah.
There is a big divide. And then it makes us start to question, is the algorithm more for
The first one.
more for the first one of just grabbing attention versus a connection? And I think all of us here know the answer. Yes, it most certainly is.
Yeah.
Because we forget that these platforms are a business.
Yeah.
The more
And we're the
attention
product.
they get,
We're the product.
the more they can charge for things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But then it takes the culture of a niche community or a niche company to say, this is what we stand for and this is what we value. And even though it could be more profitable to do it this way, we've committed to doing it this way.
Yes.
Because it feels right for us.
And that because they have understood their core values.
Yeah.
Right? They started with like you said, what are the three things that you represent?
Yeah.
And if you understood your core value, then it's important for you to connect everything you do on a day-to-day basis to how it connect with the true north. When I run many departments, we always have our quarterly town hall to recognize people. And one of the things I always do is have one of my direct go up stage and talk about our mission and vision. And it wasn't an exercise of giving them presentation time, which is a bit of to kind of work up their skills in being a big stage and doing presentation, but more so for them to own the message.
Yeah.
And I want, as they were up there on the stage talking about the mission and vision, and I want to feel how much they own the message versus they're just memorizing or reading it. And then when we'd go on our one-on-one, I would ask them, like, what was your feeling up on the stage talking about the mission and vision? And the first few times they're like perplexed. Why? And I said, it's important. It's important that I know that you connected with it, right? You connected not just through words, through emotion, because we're leading a group of people. We're serving them. And if you connected with our mission and vision, every day, everything we do connected to it. That's our true north.
Yeah.
You know what to do and what not to do.
In one of the old companies that I used to work for, one of our highest values was sustainability. So everything that we did within the office and all the projects that we worked on, we tried our best. Doesn't always work, but you try your best to go, how can we make this more sustainable? And it's the questioning of already good enough practices that goes, okay, as life changes and as business changes, how can we not just maintain that minimum standard of sustainability, but how can we beat it? How can we get better at it?
Yep.
So that if things do skyrocket in a year like when AI came out, how do you maintain that level of sustainability? Yeah, I just liked the questioning. It's getting people involved in the process. So, Will, I want to shift the conversation a little to make sure that we have a little bit of time for this. What ways have you chosen to share this message?
Through when I go on a talk, when I get invited to do a talk on different events. On my podcast, I have a podcast. I have about 87 episodes already. I use my podcast as a platform to connect with my audience and also shine the light on other people. I started the podcast with just being a monologue with the purpose of me sharing my thoughts, my knowledge, my experience. But 19 episode into it, I got really bored recording on my own,
Yeah.
hearing myself talk and editing myself, my recording multiple times. And I said, as a leader, I always tell people you need to work outside your comfort zone. That's one big thing for me is you need to continue to evolve. And I said to myself, how could I share that message and not do it? So I said, okay, I want to grow and I want to interview people. I want to be a host. Uh, I've been a host in the company, I've been a host on a stage, but never on a podcast. So I started. I reached out to people. They applied. We did a meet and greet, did a couple of recording, and now a lot of people just reach out to me. Will I listen to this episode and that episode? Can I be a guest on your podcast? And we would do a meet and greet. And with that, I met like 70 people all over the world that I interviewed that are really like making the world a better place. The tagline of my podcast is discover a better version of yourself. It's I will aim, happen to have my name, but it's really intentional living, purposeful living, intentional living. And the tagline is discover a better version of yourself. And to me, it's really important to actually focus that every episode we have, our listener must be able to take one or two things that they could walk away with and implement. So that's one way. The other way is I'm also an author. I wrote my second book, Seeds of Leadership,
Yeah.
released it in December. It's really helping people to be better leaders. I've seen a lot of people struggle throughout their career and not knowing what to do and how to help their people. And therefore, why would that still be the case? It's 2025. So I've been working on this book for about 8 years. I work for a big company and I'm not able to publish it. And then as soon as I went solo entrepreneur with my friends, I decided I want to publish my book, and I did publish the book. And I'm working on a third book already now, a cohort with a couple of people, which is a perfect sample of working outside my comfort zone. When I did my podcast, I became a host. I had a lot of people applied. I interviewed them, and I stayed connected with them, and they all became my guests on my virtual event called Career Breakthrough. I'm passionate about helping people grow in their career. So I created an event last September, September 30th, and I hosted a virtual event all day. I had 8 speakers, and five of them joined me in writing the book. And how we end up with the book is after the event, we had a post-event discussion, and I was talking to about like, thank you for being a guest on my webinar. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your time. Is there one thing in your bucket list that you really want to accomplish? And four of them said, we really want to be an author, but we don't have enough material to write a book. And I said, guess what? We're writing a book because I published my second book. We're writing a book. And they're like, just like that. I said, yeah. I said, all the topics that we covered for our event could be on a book or even better. And that's how that seeds that I planted in October last year end up now we're going to be publishing in October this year.
That's
It's
amazing.
through my connection from my podcast, right? It's giving back to the universe and getting back from the universe and giving back again.
Yeah.
What
I love
made,
that. Wow.
yeah, what made, what inspired you to actually start the podcast? Are you the type of person who
Two
likes to
things.
talk?
No, I'm not. I'm actually a bit of an introvert. I'm not comfortable meeting new people. I was a bit anxious meeting both of you, although you're both great people after I met you. But I was really anxious. I don't want to meet new people, and I still try to work on it. Two things. Number one is I've learned a lot throughout my career, and I felt if I could put some video out there, share that thoughts. People could go back and revisit them someday. And leadership is very relevant. It's not time sensitive, right? A lot of things we do in leadership goes a long way, and it's very relevant. So I think it's good to be out there. Secondly, is more personal reason. My dad passed away when I was 22, and I always yearned back then in 1990. There's no recording or video is not common, and we're not wealthy, so we don't have a lot of recording. In fact, I don't have any recording of my dad on video or voice. So I always yearn to hear my dad's voice. That's always one of the things I want. And I said this could be a gift to my family. Someday I won't be here, forever. But when all is said and done, they want to hear my voice, go listen to my podcast. There's about 100 episodes by this week. I'm recording the 100th episode. So there's 100 episodes of you to listen to. Listen to your heart's content. And that to me was the more personal reason. Is like, I want to hear my dad's voice. I had no chance of doing that. But if for my two daughters, they want to hear it someday, go to dad's podcast. It's going to be there, until YouTube becomes something else, right?
That's really sweet. You and our last guest, Dr. Munira, both brought up the idea and the concept of leaving something legacy-wise that has your voice in it, so that people who are left have a way to hear you. I never thought of starting a podcast or doing talks or anything like that to be inspired. Huh. That's really neat. So for those of you who are afraid of speaking and afraid of podcasting, think of legacy for your loved ones who will be left after you pass.
Yeah, that's very powerful. That's really powerful. And I think I know everybody can relate to that. I mean, I certainly wish I had my dad's voice on video as well. I can relate to that. Yeah, we never have enough pictures or enough videos of the ones we lose. And leaving a legacy is part of why we do what we do, most of us. And we want to serve and leave that legacy and leave the world a better place. And Will, I can tell you're doing that. So well done. Well done. Hey, Will, I want to ask you a quick question about going back to cultures. I know that Laura is going to be wrapping up here soon, but I want to get this in. Tell me your thoughts of emotional intelligence and its place in culture. I do a lot of talks on that. It seems to be the new thing. CEOs from Microsoft down are talking about the fact that this is not a nice to have, it's a need to have. Do you bring that to your practice, and how do you implement that and ignite that to your cultures?
I think that's a very, very good question. I think emotional intelligence is extremely important. I think if you lead with emotional intelligence and use it in your discussion with empathy and compassion, you're gonna create a lot of lasting thing in your company.
Yeah.
And I think now leaders are gravitating toward it because of the burnout, right? During COVID pandemic burnout, I think that's why this becomes so important. But this is not a new thing. Emotional intelligence has been around for a long time. It's just that now, because people are refusing now to go and sacrifice their mental health, that now organizational leaders need to adapt and change. But this is not something new. I think that the unfortunate part is a lot of, especially in the industry where I worked for many years, is toughness and being tough on people is looked at as something good versus you're kind. I've been told that I was too weak because I was too kind. And I always said, you have not crossed the path where you didn't deliver for me. And in private, I would hand your head back to you. But a good leader don't do that in public to everyone.
Right.
And because of that culture, right? I think that's a problem. It's a culture. But I totally agree with you. Emotional intelligence is so much more important, not just now, but going forward.
Yeah.
For you to communicate with your people, not only with empathy and feeling you being in their shoes, but have compassion. Have compassion in helping them move in the right direction. Because at the end of the day, whether AI is going to be prevalent, it's going to be powerful, it's going to change the way we do business, similar to computer, which
Yeah.
I wrote on that
Yeah.
computer software development for 33 and a half years. AI is going to change our world the next 5 years. I totally believe. But in leading with emotional intelligence on top of being able to maximize AI is going to take you to the next level. But understanding that using emotional intelligence is not just thinking about empathy, it's about thinking about compassion,
Mm.
right? Taking that through end to end. Empathy is a starting point. Listening to people, understanding what's going on, controlling your emotion, right? Holding what are the triggers, understanding what triggers you, right? And those are really important. But if you don't show compassion, it's a hot baked potato. You could still eat it, but probably not so good. I
Yeah.
love that you brought up the topic of emotional intelligence, and I did search you a little bit, and I found emotional intelligence for one your expertise, and I hope you were asking me a question about it, and I'm thankful you asked a question about it because I
Well done.
want to highlight how important emotional intelligence is in using empathy through compassion
Yeah.
to complete that picture.
Yeah, yeah. I think we all need. I say this every day. We all need a little bit more grace these days. And that's kind of a great tagline for people to just sort of that word for me means so much. And what you just said, it's a there's not enough grace in the world going around these days, I think.
And to add to that, we need a little more self love,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Growing up, I went through a lot, and I was really hard on myself too. I don't want to fail. Every time I make a mistake and I didn't really achieve the thing that I thought I should be, I'm really hard on myself. And what does that do? You can't carry boulders after boulders and climb the hill. And when I realized that one day that's what I'm doing to myself, I said I need to give myself a little bit of grace, right? Grace
yeah,
and
great.
self love, and
Yeah,
understanding that I'm doing everything I can, right? Or I could in that moment
yeah,
to climb the hill, but I can't just keep on carrying another boulder because I missed something and I want to carry more boulder. I won't get up to the where I want to be.
right,
I won't even reach the destination. I'm
right.
going to get buried by the boulder, just imagining it.
Yeah,
So we only have a couple minutes left, but Will, I
Okay.
want to know, that's fine. I want to know where we can find you and your favorite way to communicate.
LinkedIn. I have 24 hours SLA. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I respond to every chat, even if they're selling me something. I respond to them.
yeah.
But yeah, LinkedIn is the best way. And I also have a website, I Will Aim, but I don't use it a lot. And my YouTube channel, I Will Aim.
Thank you. They're so quick and to the point. Love it. Okay. This means that we have space at the end of an interview because I like to ask if there's anything on your mind or in your heart that you need to share. So, what would you love to leave people with?
I would ask people to give them grace, love
Mhm.
yourself more. I think the world is getting, you know, tougher and tougher each day. Try to be more empathetic to other people. Be kind. If there's one thing you could do today, is be kind to someone, because you don't know what that kindness mean to that one person. It could mean that the person move another day or don't give up. So to me, it's important. I think if we could do one thing today is kindness to other people.
Aw, thank you. I think my kindness is that I am a playful person, which helps to like defuse people's anxiety.
Making people smile, that's also a gift. And sometimes we don't even think about that, right?
No.
Our ability to have people have that smile for that
Yeah.
moment, right?
Yep. Well,
It
you had
relieves that
mentioned
pressure.
weakness. Yeah, you had mentioned weakness earlier, and I used to be made fun of a lot for being a naive 6-year-old in corporate. And I was like, but isn't this also a superpower at the
Yes.
same time? But it took getting into entrepreneurship to see it and the emotional intelligence behind it. So thank you so much for this conversation, Will. I
Thank
will call this the official close to the interview. So thank you so much for being here.
thank you, Laura and Rob. This really meant a lot to me. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Have a good day. Thank
So
you.
before you leave, we like to stay for a few minutes after the interview is over because we have to make sure that the timing is right for online TV. But this
Okay.
is like the cool social media just chat part. What I like to do is I like to get some reflections of our conversation. And let's let you go first, Will. What's something that stood out to you in our conversation today?
To me, I think the one thing that I really love about it is the flow of the conversation, how you and Rob go back and forth, not in a scripted way. It's very unscripted, and it's different. It feels warm to be able to have this dialogue with you. To me, that's powerful because it brings the best out of people. It. I was nervous when I first came in, but then after a few minutes, I settled in because I felt the warmness of the room. The element that you projected, I think helps me become at ease in what I'm trying to do.
And then I'm going to edit that and take it as a testimonial.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Boom, mic drop.
Yeah, exactly. Rob, what's something that stood out to you?
There's so much. I really enjoyed just being in your presence, Will. I really did. I love when you said work outside your comfort zone. That's where demonstrating a growth mindset. I believe in that as well. Discover a better version of yourself and leave a legacy. Mm-hmm. I really gravitated to that. And it's so funny because I'm like you. I'm on all these stages and podcasts and speaking everywhere all the time. And Laura's doing the same thing. And I never ever thought about the fact that my kids and my grandkids would be able to hear my voice when I'm gone. And I want to thank you for that. That was
You're welcome.
That was a moment for me, Will. So you gave me something. So you served me today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I know you guys are just trying to make me cry. I'm an easy crier. I was like, this is so beautiful. The thing that stood out to me, anything that I could do to crack a joke, it's all good. It helps to dissipate the extra emotion. The thing that stood out to me the most is when you asked corporate people and corporate teams to create a vision board together.
Yeah.
That's not usually something that we see as a team effort. We usually see that as an individual effort.
Right.
But to have companies and mergers and takeovers and all of that come together and create something like that, now you're sharing in the shared vision and sharing in the creation of it.
Yeah.
So that you can see it, you can talk it, you can feel it from other people. Wow, you can visualize it for the rest of it. But now it's not just a visual that corporates like copy paste onto you. Now it's the memories and the conversations that go with all of those elements.
Yeah.
And you were part of it. You contributed to it.
You were part of it. Yep. I love that part.
So powerful. Yeah.
Okay, so we have about 60 seconds left. If there's anything else that came to your mind or any comments you want to make, now's your time.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I'm really appreciative of this opportunity. And if there's one thing you could do out there in the world is be kind and, like Laura, share your smile and make people laugh.
Mm-hmm. Anything I can do, it's all good. Well, thanks again, Will. It was so nice.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Will. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye. So our next guest is behind the scenes. Bev, just give me a thumbs up if you're ready.
Here we go.
I got a double thumbs up.
Yeah.
Hi, Bev.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, Bev.
Good. I do have to say, I love the hair.
Oh, thank you. That's a normal compliment.
Is it?
Yeah.
Like, I just, there's like, I cut my hair and I'm like, there's not much I could do with it anymore. So I live through other people.
There you go.
So, Bev, I like to start every interview just by shifting things up. I don't want your elevator pitch. I don't want your pre-programmed stories. I want to get to know Bev, the human being behind the message and behind the business, because the other things will happen naturally because it's a part of who you are.
Right.
So I like to start with this question. If you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
Oh, wow. Thought you were going to say, what would those 3 words, not what I would love those 3 words to be.
Mhm.
So I guess I would say confident,
Mhm.
courageous, and compassionate.
Ooh. Oh, wait. Scribble. Okay. My mind, every time I write the word courageous, I keep writing connection because that's what I do and I talk about. So I couldn't write the M. Compassionate. So confident, courageous, and compassionate. So the obvious follow-up to this is, what do those 3 words, and I'm going to repeat them again, confident, courageous, and compassionate, how do they play a role in the core message that you have for people?
Well, I'd have to say that they would play probably the biggest role of all.
Mhm.
Based on my message is based on real life lived experience. It's not textbook. It's not something that, you're going to sit down and you're going to study the rules and the processes and get yourself a Pinterest board and all of this. And so out of everything that I've been through, courage and compassion especially have been at the forefront of what I am working with women to empower them to feel either once again or for the first time.
Ooh, I like the distinction though, for the first time or again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a lot of discussion about women's empowerment,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to know what it means to you. What does it look like for you?
So for me, I guess we have to dip a little tiny toe into the water here about
The story?
a little story. I'm just going to give you the cliff notes. If you want to hear a good
Oh no,
chunk
I
of
want
it,
to hear the story.
go to Alberta. I'll be there on the 17th at the U of A.
Oh,
But
nice.
yeah, so I have lived through suicide attempts, 2 violent marriages, death of my youngest daughter, and bankruptcy. So that's the cliff notes.
Yep. Wow.
And yeah, so that was something that it changes you on a base level. And so my first suicide attempt was when I was 16. So I never had the chance to be that woman that, I never got to grow up to be confident or, compassionate because I was too busy living in survival mode, too busy being shrunk to make everybody comfortable. And so when I talk about either reclaiming your confidence and your compassion and your courage, that would be for somebody who, maybe they've had a longer life before trauma hit them, or finding it in the first place. Maybe they didn't have it at all to start with. That's why I said cliff notes, honey. Cliff notes.
No, I know, but I relate to the feeling behind it all.
Mm-hmm.
The not feeling like you're allowed to be you.
Yeah, and I certainly wasn't. One of the things that was the driving force behind that was after my first suicide attempt, like I said, I was 16, and it was never spoken of. Nope. There was no counseling. There was no therapy. It was never even acknowledged that it had happened. And so, that teaches you how to function for the rest of your life. Like, your pain makes you too much. So in order to not be that much, you've got to shrink yourself down, shapeshift to make life easier for everybody else. So when you live that kind of life, you don't get the chance to grow into what you were truly meant to be in the first place.
I am going to bawl by the time this is over.
I will try not to let that happen.
No, it's very easy. Very, very easy. Rob's just like, oh my God.
Well, here we go, he says.
No, I'm right there with her. Yeah. These are tough things to talk about.
Right.
And that's why it's important to talk about them.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
and the biggest thing is especially women of around my age. I'm an older girl, but women around my age in my generation, um, we were taught that you have to hold everything together: the family, the kids, the work, the household, the world. Basically, your job is to hold all of that together. And so many women have spent years and years and years holding it together with, as I say, duct tape and denial, right? And they never get to hold themselves together.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm here today, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Wow.
I'm gonna have to go get Kleenex. I will be right back.
Wow.
Oh,
No.
Okay,
Lord.
so before I go get Kleenex, I also have like makeup and eyelashes in my eye. When you said that your generation was taught that you have to hold everything together,
Mhm.
that was very much my mom and me, but she taught me that, not meaning to,
Yeah.
right? But
No.
the experience growing up, I felt that too, and then I realized that I never taught that to my daughter, but she
Right.
feels that same way too.
Oh, sweetheart.
Hmm.
Oh. And that's the other thing that I want to get across, right? Is that you're not alone. You know, so many women feel so isolated and alone in this. And my husband actually said to me, he says, "Babe, aren't you worried that you don't have a diploma in, in all of this to be talking about it?" And I said, "Not at all,
Can't get
because
one.
I am there and on the other side, and I'm not there to tell you, I'm not coaching women on, nervous system regulation in the technical terms. I'm giving them a space to just be, to let it all out, because
Right.
when you're so full with everything, there's no room to put all the good stuff that's still there for you."
Agreed. We should do practice. I am going to take a minute. I will be right back.
Okay.
Rob, have at her. I know you.
Yeah. No. So Bev, coming from a male perspective,
Sure.
and I have to kind of relate to you and reach out to you and tell you that I'm so happy to meet you here. I
Oh,
wish
thank you.
it was in person. I'd give you a big hug, but
Aw.
I also come from a background of adversity. I've also had suicidal ideation and addiction, conquered all that, and so I sort of I can relate to where you're going and what you're doing and how you're serving and how difficult it can be to tell your story to help others.
Right.
And I sort of want to dive into that because, I do find that I do it all day, every day. And it does sort of take a toll on you a little bit. And what do you
Right.
do? What do you do personally to sort of get through that aspect of, you're serving, you're giving people your soul, your heart, your love, and you're doing that, I'm assuming, very often
Yeah.
to others, right? So how do you take care of yourself on the self-care part of it, so you can serve so you can continue to serve others?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. One of the things I will say is I am adverse to a lot of the language that's used in trauma coaching and talking about this kind of stuff, only because it's so overused. The meanings have gotten lost. So when we talk about self-care, when I talk about self-care, it's not the traditional, have a bubble bath and read a book self-care. It's really digging into yourself, pulling out all of that stuff and being kind to yourself while you pull that stuff out. But for me, I am really, really blessed at this point in my life. I have two businesses that are completely not related to trauma coaching. I own a dog daycare and I'm a dog trainer. I've been training dogs for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
So that is a huge outlet, obviously. I also train service dogs for veterans and first responders.
Oh.
So again, it's really about, I actually posted a TikTok about this today. I was packing my bag for Alberta and I had like this weird mini anxiety attack, which I haven't had for a long time. And so I just popped a leash on one of my dogs. I have 4. And we went for a short walk. And for me, it's not about distraction. It's about giving it an outlet, right? A lot of people go to distraction, and that's where addictions can come from. And that's where negative behaviors can come from when dealing with people with trauma. And so I don't want to distract myself from those feelings. I want to feel those feelings, and I want to work through them. And yeah, I do get exhausted sometimes. But my husband he's the bomb. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I was at work this morning and he sent me 4 GIFs, like bang, 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 bang. Like, you've got this, you can do this. You're a rock star, da, 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 da. And so he's really great because I can just be with him. I don't have to explain. I can explain. It's just one of those relationships that's really, really safe. So I'm really blessed at this point.
Yeah, that's
Did
wonderful.
that answer your question?
It does. It does. No, it does. It does. And I expected that. I expected that answer because what you exude is that you're a giver, right? You're a servant to others, and that you're opening your heart, which is a real amazing thing. And I love that you're doing that. And I'm getting that from you. I know Laura is too. And I know the listeners are. And I hope that the listeners are taking your advice. They're also finding out how to, we're going to do that at the end, find out how to find you, because I know that there are so many people that you can help. Do you just help women, or do you also have the ability to help men like myself?
While I have the ability, because I'm coaching from my own life experience, and because I'm speaking from my own life experience, I am keenly aware that men and women are genetically wired differently. And so, not to minimize men's trauma, men's mental health issues in any way, shape, or form. I just don't believe that I am the person that can give them what they would need in that intimate setting. Because when women are unpacking, I can't swear. I remember that from your video. Stuff. When we are unpacking our stuff, it's really an intimate relationship. And the trust and the knowledge has to be there. And I don't feel that going as deep as we do and what I do would serve to be cross-gendered, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes total sense. I was just wondering if your client, are men coming to you as well? And
they do, but I'm like, let me look for somebody for you. And I'm happy to do that. But I really want to make sure that the people that come to me get what they need. And if I can't provide it, I'm the first one to put up my hand and say, I can't provide that for you. Let me get you to where you can go with this, with a person who can provide that for you.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to celebrate that you know those boundaries and have those boundaries. So
thank you.
Yeah.
And then I'm actually the opposite. I've always been surrounded by men. And so I feel as though a conversation with a man about emotions is easier for me than a conversation with other women about emotions.
Right.
It's like, I get it. Because when women come to me and they're like, oh, women's empowerment, I'm just like,
yeah,
yes, and
right. Yeah. And
I don't know if I'm the one for you.
I am. Yeah. And I want to be clear. I'm not about women's empowerment, men's empowerment. I'm about human empowerment. But my skill set, I have to be able to honor the people that engage with me. And I can't honor that in an authentic way because I don't have that experience to speak to. How I experience the world is unique to how even Laura, you experience the world. And then Rob, you on again. And so as close as I can get is to mentoring and coaching other women and loving all of humanity, men and women. but making sure that the men are taken care of and reaching out and trying to build connections with other coaches, therapists, counselors, so that I have somewhere safe to direct those that do reach out.
Exactly.
Wow.
So before I took a moment, you had mentioned that there were things that we could do to help practice this self-love, the self-reflection.
Right.
I'd love to play with you for about a minute or two.
Sure.
Do you have any practice off the top of your head that you either get clients to do or maybe you share on social media that just gets people into that mindset shift of the self-care and the self-reflection?
Right. So I come at it from actionable steps rather than, sit down and journal it out. I mean, in the depths of my despair, journaling, it really didn't help me. And a lot of things didn't work for me that work for other people. And so I'm not saying don't journal, and I'm not saying don't get the Pinterest board. Do what works for you. But from my perspective, there are 3 things I remember quite clearly when my healing started. And the first one, which is the hardest one, I think, for everybody, is to tell the truth. To be honest, even if it's messy, start with yourself and then start with everybody else. And that might mean, telling somebody, actually today's not a good day, or admitting what's not working, what's causing pain, admitting what you're tired of pretending is okay, which is a big one. So, and again, one thing we as women, and I'm sure men do too, but I can only speak to women, that we do is we will gaslight ourselves. And truth is the way that you stop gaslighting yourself.
Ooh. So number 1 is tell the truth.
Yeah, even if it's messy.
Oh yeah, even if it's nasty, chaotic, it's all the stuff and things.
Yeah, all the things.
Yeah. So what would number 2 be?
Number 2 would be make one decision that honors you in a way that says I matter. And again, it doesn't have to be something big and showy. It can be something as simple as turning your phone off, or if Laura, you were to say to me, how are you today, Bev? Actually saying, you know what? Not okay today. It's honoring yourself. Don't defend your boundaries. That's a big one. A lot of women who have suffered trauma will set boundaries, but then they defend them. Like, I'm going to say no to this, but this is why I'm going to say no. And then I'm going to go into an hour's description of why I'm saying no, when no is actually a complete sentence.
Still learning that one.
Yep. Oh, I still struggle. Don't get me wrong. I sit here today and I'm feeling super blessed and super glad to just be here. But, I fall apart on a regular as well, just like most other women and men.
Yep. So making one decision, there we go.
Yep. That honors you.
That honors you and says that I matter.
Yeah.
I like that. Mm-hmm. Okay, ready for number 3?
Are you ready?
I am.
All right. Choose courage over comfort just once.
Choose courage over comfort.
Yeah.
That I have been living into more and more this year.
Yeah.
I'll skip the major backstory, but the gist of it is I had a really crappy 39th birthday. And so I decided for my 40th birthday, I wasn't going to have one. Turns out I had one, but I had one online so that all my online friends could come visit.
Aww.
And they gave me such wonderful gifts of words. And one of them described this phase of life as the F it 40s. Yep. And as soon as she said that, I was like, that's exactly what it feels like. Yes, I am in that phase where it's just F it. And so it takes such courage in my mind to even think that way.
Right.
Let alone live that way.
Yep, exactly.
But it feels so good. I've had such a wonderful year so far.
Yeah. That's amazing. It's amazing when you can get to that point. And like I said, all of these things, these three things that I learned early on and worked through diligently through my healing and continue to today, they're not things that are meant to take up all your time and your energy. They're things that you take tiny little steps every single day. Yeah. So maybe today choosing courage means, telling somebody, no, you're not coming to Thanksgiving to be emotionally torn apart. Maybe that's the one thing, right? Or maybe it is saying, no, I'm not going there. Or maybe it's just showing up without a mask and just being yourself.
That one is the big practice.
Yeah.
It's just as you said at the very beginning, like all this stuff that we went through, we're not supposed to be the version of us that we are because it makes other people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we're like, if we need to be safe mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, then we, at that young age, we're like, oh, let's just conform. And now we have to undo all of that.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting.
It takes a lot of energy. And that's where when I say these are my three go-to when I start working with women. These are the three things that I'm like, this is our starting point. And I say that because every day you don't have to be heads and tails above where you were yesterday. You have to be one step, right? You don't have to be fearless every single day, just once, just one tiny little step that's not rooted in fear. And the process of doing that over and over again, it just starts to be the way it is. But again, until you start getting all of this out, you can't put anything in.
So I'm doing some math right now.
Sure.
Only because you inspired an idea. So let's just say that every step that we take could take as little as 60 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So if in a year there's 525,600 minutes, because yay, musical songs tell me, and I lived for 40 years, then that's 21,024,000 steps that I took.
Mm-hmm.
So if I think of this next minute being my next step, it could be one step out of 21 million. It doesn't have to be the big step, just like you said.
No.
But it could lead to 21 million more in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think it was Maya Angelou who said, and you can't do better till you know better. I think I'm correcting quoting her that one. But it's so true. And, a lot of people say to me about my parents or, whatever the case might be. And growing up, yeah, sure. You guys are jerk faces. But now, I realized that they weren't equipped to handle it either. Right? So expecting others to be able to handle your pain in a way that works for you is not realistic because it's just not how we're built. So if you don't have that in your immediate circle, you need to be courageous enough to go out and find it.
I did look up the quote, and yes, it's from Maya Angelou.
Woo! I did not make a fool out of myself yet.
Yes,
so early. We've still got some time.
We've got some time. Okay, let's switch it up a little bit then, Bev.
Yeah, sure.
You have this message. You have this business. You're sharing your message. You're already on a podcast. Great. I want to know about the different ways that you have chosen to share your message.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, obviously here I'm speaking at the University of Alberta.
Yeah.
I have, I think, 2 or 3 other podcast interviews booked that people have reached out for me. I have TikTok. I have Instagram, I have Facebook, and those channels are no holds barred. There are a lot of bombs on those channels. It is raw, it is real, it is completely 100% unfiltered. And I don't want anybody to ever feel like they have to be polished when they come into my space, but they can just come as they are and be who they are. And if that's every other word is a bomb, fine. If it's not, that's fine too.
Mm. Were there any ways, the speaking, the podcasting, writing, whatever it is, that you have done that you never thought possible or that you didn't see as something that you would ever do?
I honestly never thought I would get here, to be quite honest. I really didn't think I was going to be around as long as I am for a really, really long time. And if I'm being 100% transparent, this shift has just been very recent for me. Not in my healing, obviously, but in my coaching and my speaking. There was just something pulling at me that said, there are people who need to hear this. And of course, like everybody else, you go through your head and like hello, you're not talking to me, right, universe? You're talking to that other person over there, because this chick doesn't have anything to offer. I didn't go to school. I didn't have, I did go to school, but not for this. I didn't have education in this field. And I was just lucky enough to have a couple of really great women in my circle who just said, you know what, the heck with it, just do it. So yeah, it's really sharing all of this publicly has been very, very new for me. Very new.
So then what made you get over that tension of not wanting to do it and actually do the thing?
If you ask my husband, he will say that his wife is very impulsive.
Oh.
Yeah. I am the type of person who, well, if you tell me no, I just go harder. So if I told myself no, I go harder too.
Oh.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I learned a long time ago. When probably about 14 years ago, that I actually realized it about myself. And, if I start getting into my head saying, you can't do that. No, don't do that. No, whatever. Well, watch out. The gloves come off and we go whole hog right into it in the deep end.
I'm picturing you kickboxing right now.
I do kickbox.
Do you really?
I do.
Maybe that's how I was picturing it. I was like, I don't know why, but I see you've got like little wrappy gloves on and you're just...
Have you been on my social?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I do kickbox.
That's awesome. Okay, does kickboxing help you with all of this work? Is it another outlet that you have? Or
it is. I just actually love the feeling of power, feeling of when you spend a good chunk of your life having no power, feeling like you have no power and feeling like you have no control. Like when my daughter passed away, for example, there's zero control over that. You start looking for things that you can control. And what I find a lot of women do, and one of my biggest things that I work with is holding women accountable for their decisions when they're going through trauma. And I didn't have anybody to hold me accountable, so I just went off the deep end way back when. And so kickboxing, I love the workout. I love that it gives me a feeling of strength. It strengthens my body, but it also strengthens my mind.
Yeah.
And it does give me a sense of feeling in control of my immediate surroundings.
Mhm.
And it never hurts to wail on a boxing bag, ever. There is no time that it is not a good idea to wail on a kickboxing bag.
I've always wanted to, but I'm like, if I start kicking this bag, are my knees gonna pop out of place?
Well, you don't kick with your, well, you do. Well, no, I can show you someday.
Wait, where do you live?
Eastern Canada.
You're in Eastern. I'm in Nova Scotia.
I'm in New Brunswick.
Okay, we'll chat after.
I'm in Nova Scotia all the time.
Oh, I'm in Truro. So like,
That's cool.
you have to go through here really to go anywhere else.
My birth mom's in Shubenacadie.
Oh, that's so nice. See, I love the synchronicities. Okay, yeah, you have to teach me how to kick.
Yeah.
I used to watch. Do you remember Shalene Johnson on like the infomercials at midnight?
Yes.
I used to watch her forever until I finally got the nerve to buy the kickboxing workout that she had, Turbo Jam.
Yep.
And then I could kick in the air, but even that hurts sometimes.
Oh.
But in my mind, I'm like, I wonder what it would feel like to actually kick a punching bag.
Oh my gosh, it is the most amazing feeling. And one of my friends and I, we would go, not during kickboxing class, we would go to the gym, say like on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And in kickboxing class, they make you wear the pads, the shin guards, you know, the whole 9 yards. But when her and I go, we don't wear pads. And my husband's like, honey, people are going to think I'm beating you. You need to stop. Face.
It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And empowering.
It is about healing, is about allowing yourself to feel the thing.
Yeah.
And not finding distractions, but finding purpose.
Yeah.
And that's the big one. Anybody can distract themselves from anything at any time. And in today's world, it's so easy. It's literally right in your hand, you know, doom scrolling and all of that. But to find your passion is a little bit more difficult. And that takes really knowing who you are.
And that's where you go and you dig deep with people. And
yeah.
Because you can relate to them, right? So it's,
right.
I mentioned this earlier this morning with another guest, the wounded warrior or the wounded healer. You know, it's a gift for you to give back through your experience, strength, and hope. And I think that's what I get out of what I'm hearing from you, Bev. And I just love you doing that. I love that you're sharing your experience, strength, and your hope, especially your strength. And your strength comes through with the way you carry yourself, your body language, and the way you speak. And it's you are not that victim anymore. You are not that person. That story, you've gotten rid of that story. You've now developed. You've built your own story, right? A new story for you. We all have that ability, and you have created a new story that is so powerful that you can now bring this to women that you are in that place you were. And you can look them in the eye and say, I know exactly what you're thinking. And I can bring you out of this dark place, and I can rise you up, and I can raise you to a new level. And then I can help you build your new story too. And I am just so in awe of you. So thank you for being here.
I just want to say one thing, that I am really about walking with the women. I'm going to be right there in the mud, in the muck, in the grossness, with them, and help them to find themselves. Healing doesn't happen in isolation.
Right.
It happens in the reaching, it happens in the asking, it happens in letting people in little bit by little bit. And so that's where I hope I can come in for women.
I don't think you have to hope. I think you're doing it. I would take that word right out of your vocabulary. And I can tell by that person you are. You're not a hoper. I can tell you that. You're a doer. That's the life. Your husband's right, and keep listening to him. You're a doer. You're going to go change the world and change people.
Oh, and, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just lucky to be able to be in the same room here virtually. So fantastic.
Well, that's awesome of you to say, and I really appreciate it. You know, it's time to take the muzzle off. If I can drop into a dog training, they weave into each other a lot. But it is time to take the muzzle off and to just, you know, say the stuff.
She wants to say it so bad, Laura.
I do. It's awful.
You're doing so well, Bev.
I have a t-shirt that has all the stuff on it, a hoodie and everything.
I can't believe you haven't said it yet. That's great.
I know. I'm doing really well. I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's time. It's time to start saying enough is enough, and I matter.
Yeah. You're normalizing the conversation, and we need more people like yourself, because there's so many people hiding behind the social media persona that you portray. We saw that with that famous chef, Anthony, what's that famous chef that committed suicide, and he was, you know, on social media, and life was wonderful, and you know, you see it all the time, and but is it real? And you're getting real with the people and the women that you're coaching and being part of their lives. And the fact that you're real is giving them another chance at life to, as I say, not just you know, survive, but thrive again, which is what you're doing. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Laura. I know you probably.
Oh, I was looking that up because I was like, which Anthony?
Did I get that right? It's a famous chef. And
Anthony Bourdain?
Yeah. And everybody was there. People were in total shock. And look at Robin Williams. Right?
Yeah.
You know, there's a perfect example. So loved, so admired, yet not enough.
And unfortunately, the world's just getting smaller and smaller with technology, and people don't want the real. They want the unreal, the imaginary. And the reason they want it is because it takes them out of what they're having to deal with right now. But wouldn't it be awesome if we could get them to deal with what they're in right now and get them to where they don't need a distraction from their life, that their life is their distraction. That's right.
They're living their best life, and they have purpose, and they have, you know, they found their why. Exactly. And my wife, Missy, she trains canine warriors for veterans.
Oh, I do too.
Oh, do you? Oh.
Is she with, sorry, sidetrack. Is she with Wounded Warriors?
Yeah. The canine warriors, they're called here.
Okay.
We happen to live in the town where the corporate headquarters is. So she trains the puppies all the way through they're with us for about a year and a half. But the reason why I say that is because one of the obviously the mission for that whole purpose is to combat the suicide rate, which is 20 a day in the United States here. 20 a day vets take their life. So their purpose and their why is to combat, get rid of that. But so that's, we have this sort of that common bond with the dogs. We don't have one. We don't have one right this second in the house, but we graduated the last one. But that's what she does. So I understand that mentality and the mental health behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to interrupt only because we have about 2 minutes, and I want to make sure that we know where to find you, Bev. So
sure.
Where do we find you and your favorite way to communicate?
I'm super easy to find. Are you ready?
Yep.
So my name is Bev Wells,
Mm-hmm.
and my business is Bev Wells Honestly.
Okay.
You plop it into Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Facebook.
What's your preferred method?
It really doesn't matter.
Oh.
My phone just explodes 24/7 when you own a nonprofit and a full-time business. Your phone it's on Do Not Disturb right now. I told my staff I am not available. If the place burns down, call this person. But direct message is my favorite. So either direct message through TikTok, Facebook, or Insta. All of them come directly to me.
So in about 60 seconds or less, I like to hold space at the end of an interview, just in case there's something on your mind or in your heart that you need to share. So what would you love to leave people with today?
really, I've said it. I want women to know you're not alone, that there are people, not just me, but there are many other women who feel exactly the way you're feeling. One of the things when my daughter died drove me absolutely bonkers when everybody would come up to me and say, oh, I can just imagine, or I couldn't imagine, and you're so angry. You're just like, no. Anyway, I can't swear, so I won't say it. But I just want women to know, divorce, trauma, suicide attempts, death of a family member or a daughter, bankruptcy, all of that nasty stuff I've actually been through, and I'm still here. And I want to show you and help you and walk with you to get there for yourself on your own 2 feet.
I love that. Thank you, Bev.
Thank you.
This was
Thank you
such
so
a
much for
delight.
having me. I'm sorry I made you cry.
No apologies. I told my daughter this too. I was like, your actions and my emotional response to your actions has nothing to do with you.
Right.
And same as the reverse. I'm just a crier. I already know that.
You really are.
I really am. So I'm going to call this the official close to your interview, Bev. It was such a delight. I'm also going to take this moment to invite you to stay for the next 3.5 minutes as a little short reprieve and reflection piece. So I'm going to start with me. Something that stood out to me in our conversation today was as soon as you came on camera, the first thing I thought of in my head is I'm picturing you with like an 8-foot spear. And you just, I don't know why a spear, but you just have like this warrior woman vibe to you that I'm like, oh, she would fight for me.
Yeah.
If I was, aligned with something that you wanted to fight for, I'm like, she oh my God. It's hard to find people who, even in the face of danger, would still have that energy and that drive and that, I can't think of the word. Okay.
Fearlessness.
That's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
but
I don't.
Thank you.
There isn't much that I'm afraid of anymore. So
yeah.
Take that for what you will.
I think that's the vibe I'm getting, is that you're just like, you would face anything. And it's really supportive.
Thank you.
So thank you. Oh, that was so good. And the last part where you said you're not alone, and the quote unquote, I'm still here. I so relate to that. That's a mic drop moment. I'm still here.
Yeah.
After all this shit, I'm still here. Sorry.
100%.
I rarely
said it and I didn't.
And thankfully, this is not on the TV part.
Oh, it's not. That's right. Oh, you're lucky. You're lucky.
Oh my!
Woo! That's like the only word I use. Okay.
Wow.
Okay, your turn, Bev. What's something that stood out to you?
I couldn't swear and I didn't swear. Oh, Rob's gonna lose it.
Oh my God.
I have to say, I was freaking the F out. This is my very first podcast interview. Very first. Yeah, very first.
Wow.
We got to be your first?
You were. You were both my first.
I feel so honored. Thank you.
But again, it was the choose the courage over comfort thing. Like, I can't reach women if I don't get out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, TikTok's easy. You can edit, you can make yourself look all pretty and do all the things and fix what you say and take 1,000,000 shots if you need to. But this is live. And so, I had a little bit of a holy smokes. What am I doing? And then my husband sent me this stupid meme and I was like, all right, then.
Aw.
All right, I'm good. But you guys made it super easy.
Aw.
Yeah.
I hope this means that you'll do many more.
I would love to. It's been a blast.
So, Rob, in about 30 seconds or so, what is something that stood out
Yeah,
to you?
yeah, no worries, no worries. So I wrote down battle because I would if I was going into battle, I would go with you.
Thank you.
Your physiology, even sitting here on video, is very, very powerful, and you exude that confident, courageous, and compassionate. I also loved. I'm going to be quick. Truth, even if it's messy, I love that.
Yeah.
And courage over comfort. We talked about that, but I think overall, the message you have is one that you need to share. So this is your first one that could have been your 100th. I would never have known. So.
Thanks.
I tell you to keep going, keep being yourself, be your authentic self, and you are going to have massive impact on anybody and everybody that you meet and come in contact with you, including me. So,
Thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate that.
You're
It's been an honor, guys, to hang out with you for this last 40 minutes. And now I got to finish packing and catch a flight to Alberta.
Yes. Okay. Enjoy. Lovely. Thank you so much, Bev.
Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye. Oh, sorry. Okay. Our next guest is in the background. Nazma, just give me a thumbs up if you're ready to join us.
Jesus.
And another one if you're ready to laugh.
There we
You're
go.
like, I don't know about that one.
I don't want to follow Bev. Like I was watching some of that and I'm like, I feel semi-emotional just kind of coming off of it. And I'm like, how powerful and amazing she is. I'm not so sure I want to go next.
You got this.
Okay, but I do 25 of these in 1 week.
Oh my God.
How can I
That's
not?
why you're
Nazma,
why you're-
am I saying your name right? Is it Nazma?
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm really trying to honor the names because I'm not very good with names. So I'm trying really hard. I like to start every interview just to shake things up because I don't want your pre-programmed responses. I want to get to know you as a human being. So we'll get rid of all the anxiety jitters. Just pretend we're in a coffee shop or sitting on your couch just having a conversation. And here's my question. If you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
Wow. 3 words. I would say I would want people to say that I am kind, respectful, and supportive.
I'm not going to cry yet. You have a little more effort to put into that one. So these 3 words, the kind, respectful, and supportive, how do they play a role in the key message that you have for people?
You know, it's really funny coming on to today's podcast. I wasn't sure what it was that was my message that I wanted to put forward today, right? I don't have like a book that I want to talk about. I am working on a book, but that's not like the thing. And it isn't necessarily a service that I want to sell. It's more just connecting with folks and having a dialogue. And when it comes to, you know, what is my purpose for joining this, it's really kind of so all-encompassing. And I think it's really funny because that kind of defines me in many ways. You know, I am a leadership consultant, management consultant, but I also am an executive coach, and I specialize in change management, and I work on organizational design and development. And so it's like, it's never just one thing. It's like the whole ecosystem, right? And so that's kind of how I approach like almost everything.
Do you want to do a little bit of live coaching? Just very short, just very short.
Sure.
I promise to be very gentle.
Sure. All right.
Okay. You may not notice it, but we'll just start with the why did you get into leadership consulting and change management? I can't talk. And all the things before I mess those up too.
Actually, so let's go way back, right? So way back in college, I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. Like I selected the university I went to because I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. And that came from, I mean, since I was just tiny, I wanted to be a physician. And I decided if I was going to be a physician, I was going to be like the hardest and best. So it was between cardiology and neurology for me. I'm like, which one of those, speaks to me? And so I selected the university I wanted to go to because they had a top neuroscience program at the time, went there, loved it, was sort of, very directional about I'm going to go to med school after this. And, this is who I'm going to be. This is my life all planned out. But while I was at my university, I worked on the volunteer EMS squad and had just a series of really rough experiences. We had 1 week where it was like 3 disastrous calls, and I was emoting very strongly over those. It sticks with you, right? And my my neuro advisor for my major was actually the paramedic on the rig that I was on call on that week. And he said to me, it was later in the week, like I think a Thursday afternoon, he said, you'd be a fantastic physician. You'd be a great surgeon, and which is what I wanted to be. And he's like, in our labs and everything else, you'd be a really great surgeon. But you have to separate yourself from the patient, and you have to see the body as a system and not as a person. And I walked away from that room sort of like a little bit numb after that conversation, because I knew it in that instant, this isn't for me. And I thought about it and I toiled over it. And I decided to call the med school that I had gotten into and pull my acceptance. And I just called and said, thanks, but no thanks. And they were like, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I'm sure. And then it took me a couple days before I actually made the call home, and said to my parents, I've decided I'm not going to go to med school. And they were like, what? And, for my dad, it was just like, I'm sorry, what just happened? Like, because my parents had this, I'm the child of an immigrant. And for them, it was like, get a job and do your best and hopefully marry well. I did none of those things. Instead, I got a job and was very self-directed and really wanted to do something that I was passionate about, not just something that was going to earn me the most. And I married for love, not for money. So I didn't take any of their direction, but I'm also super happy. So it took a while for me to actually, come around and say to them, this is not what I want to do. And then answer the second question, which is, well, what do you want to do? And it was like, I don't know. Now, I have to say, I think the advice that my advisor gave me was wise and the best advice I'd ever gotten at the right time, because I would have invested a lot of time and energy doing something that wasn't right for me. And I fully recognize for physicians, for anyone, any first-line worker really in the healthcare industry, you have to separate yourself, or else you're going to be a puddle of tears constantly, because they see the most awful things. And thank God we have those people. And I just knew that for me, I wanted to never look at a body and not see the person. I always wanted to see the person, not a system. So that kind of led me into, okay, now what do I do? And I was, really kind of thinking, well, I don't want to get my PhD because I don't want to teach. Well, ironically, I'm an adjunct professor at 2 universities now. So much I knew when I was in my 20s. And I thought, well, I don't want to get my PhD either because, or I also didn't want to get my PhD because I didn't want to, do research. Well, I worked for pharma for 30 years. So, I mean, again, I knew nothing back when I thought I knew it all. And so I ended up going into the pharmaceutical industry, stayed there forever, learned a ton. But in the time that I was there, the thing that kept coming back to me was this need to serve others. And oftentimes, I mean, like it happens in any workplace, people would complain about something or we'd run into some frustration. And I have always had this thread of you can complain about it or you can do something about it. And for me, it was just, okay, what are we going to do to fix this? And so I very quickly started working on process optimization and, looking at, okay, what's broken in the system? And is it the people, the leadership? Is it the process, the system? What is it? And fixing and tweaking that. And as time went by, I just refined it and kind of got to the point where I was looking at how are organizations structured, and is it the right structure for what they're trying to do? Are the right people in the right places? And do you have the right leadership that's necessary to take people on the journey that they need to take to be successful? And then, an added layer is, and to be innovative, right? To evolve into this space where you give yourself that okayness with failure, right? Because if you don't risk, you're not going to get that reward. And so through all of that, journeying, I actually decided to get my master's degree. Funny story, I was on maternity leave with my second, and was kind of bored after like 1 week. So I had a 2-year-old and a newborn, and I was looking for something to do. And I decided to take a master's program and just kind of dive into that. And I got a degree in organizational leadership. And so that just really, it was fireworks going off. I dove into the material, the content. I loved it because it was connecting all of my passions. And so that is my very long-winded story as to how I got to where I am, because I do think it's very rare that you have that, linear approach. It really is a winding road. And I think that, when you take that road, you stop and smell the roses as you go. And you sometimes, there are hurdles that you need to jump through and things you need to reroute, but you always end up where you need to be, right? So that's sort of my perspective on life, I guess.
There's so much there, but I'm going to help you see it. I want to go back to, you said that you wanted to be a neurosurgeon. I get the whole immigrant side, the good financially secure side, but why neurosurgeon? Why not something else that is also high paying?
So the only opportunities that I was aware of that was high paying would be a doctor or be a lawyer, right? Okay. And my parents were not well educated, and they weren't able to give direction on, oh, what about this, or have you thought of this, or have you thought of that? Quite honestly, if I really wanted to, shoot my shot for the highest paying, sort of space that I would actually thrive in, I probably would have gone into finance and then private equity or venture capitalism or something like that. But I didn't know anything about it. And, at the time, when my parents came to this country, we were in the South Bronx. And so I grew up in a really tough area. And, my whole goal in life was to get out, never go back. And so high paying for me, even today, the dollar doesn't matter to me. It's what can I accomplish with that dollar, right? So didn't have to be the most lucrative. It just had to get me to a place where I felt safe and where I felt like I could be me.
Ooh, now we're getting there. Okay, hold on. Felt safe, could be me. You said get out and never go back. Mm-hmm. Can you? Yep. This is the coaching part. We're finally in the coaching part, but it'll be really short. So when did you say the Bronx? Is that what you said? Okay, so when you were in the Bronx and you have that, I have to get out and never come back here. What kind of emotions were popping up for you? Think of the deepest struggle moment when you were having that thought. Show me that.
So I think, I see it a lot in people that I coach as well.
Exactly.
The drive that comes from scarcity is, incredible, right? It's this. There was a period of time where I didn't have whatever it is, right? For, different people, it's different things. For me, it was multiple things, right? So, I actually got a scholarship. I went to one of the top all-girls schools in New York City. And so I would be getting off the train that I took from the South Bronx into Manhattan, and limos would be pulling up, girls getting out, going into school. And so the disparity was in my face every day. And you can either take that kind of energy and use it to be really bitter and, life's not fair, or you can take it and be I'm going to be that's going to be my daughter, right? I'm going to claw my way there. And so, it was a combination of, well, I don't fit in here. Right? This is not my vibe, right? This is not my place. Knowing that, also knowing that there was more, there was better, and why not me? right? Like, I'm not going to wait for someone to give it to me. I'm not going to feel like it's unfair I don't have it. Instead, I'm going to do whatever I can do. And so and you know, I get that a lot from my parents, which were, if you're going to do something, do it 100%, right? And so from being very young, it was like even kindergarten, first grade, whatever, it was just like everything had to be, you know, A++. And I used that. That was my ticket. It was like, okay, well, you know, I'm getting that positive feedback for being a solid student. Okay, well, you know, what doors does that open? So yeah, that was kind of behind the driver. And what was I feeling? I was feeling like I didn't belong. And I knew there was more for me.
Okay, so what is the equal and opposite of the scarcity and the not belonging?
The equal and opposite of the scarcity and not belonging. Well, first off, the not belonging is just feeling empowered and, you know, you belong in the spaces that you create, right? And the scarcity is actually looking at, okay, well, you know, what is it that I need to create those spaces? Be happy, be safe, be comfortable, right? So again, it's not about, well, I make X amount of dollars, I live in, you know, this house, I drive this car. Instead, it's, I like the people and the places that I go, right? I surround myself with people who have similar values. I'm raising a baseball team. I have 4 kids. And so it's like, you know, growing up, I grew up, although I have an older sibling, he is 10 years older than I am. And so I felt very much like an only child. So what did I do? I had 4 kids. So none of them would ever feel like an only child. Right? So I just have this very big mentality of, there's a solution for everything. You just need to work at finding it and then dive into it. So I think the opposite is, you know, that empowering yourself to be in those spaces that you believe you should be in.
Ooh, okay. So here's what I'm hearing. Okay. Here's what I'm hearing from you with just that little tiny bit. We could go on for like an hour, but I don't want to. So you just said finding a solution for everything. And I don't remember how you worded the next part because I can't write that fast. But it was along the lines of you having the permission to be you. So a lot of people put the word authenticity on top of that. But it's you being able to create that space for people so that they can fill the needs that make them feel happy, safe, and comfortable. For you specifically, it's the people, places, and environment. Do that through your leadership consulting, your change management organization, connecting with people. Because the first thing that you said was that you like connecting with people. Yeah. But what's weaved through it all is you're trying to empower yourself to make better decisions, to have a better environment, to have a better life, and to fill your needs.
Absolutely.
So still need a word for that, but that's okay. That's the beginning place. Now you have a message.
Yeah, well, I say it to my clients all the time, right? Like, so it's funny because you were saying about crying before. I have a reputation at our firm for making people cry, because like I have that. Yeah, I have a relatively high EQ. I'll see something, I'll pull on that thread until we kind of get there, and I tell my clients all the time. I'm like, you know, I learn as much from each individual as they get out of it, right? Like I walk away and there's 2 main reasons. Well, one of them is I'm able to relate to them and their situation. We might have very different experiences, but there's a relatability across, you know, there's always something that bridges us more than divides us. And the second element of it is I feel very strongly I cannot be hypocritical. If I give you advice, then I need to be taking that advice too. So I think in being, you know, a coach, it's made me a better person because for every bit of advice that I have delved out to someone, I've then said, okay, how do I now do the same thing, right? Definitely I'm a work in progress like everyone is, and there's a long way to go, but it's just fascinating because that's kind of when work isn't work, right? Because it's like, it's just having these great, rich dialogues with individuals. helping them uncover what it is that's blocking them. But at the same time, it's a little self-serving because I also get so many learnings from those conversations.
I actually just did a video about that. I think it was 2 Mondays ago, where I'm like, my favorite thing when I have conversations with other people is I have to know my stuff so well that I can teach it to somebody else. And then when they start to question from their own perspective, because they're confused, or maybe they're just like, that doesn't align with me, then it forces me to see different perspectives. And it just adds to how I see what it is that I do. But I can't grow that until I have people like you and like Rob and everybody else here to reflect that back at me.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's magical. Like, I get to see the world from different perspectives, but I still get to sit where I am and see that.
That's cool. That's cool. Hey, Nazma, great meeting you. We have something. I grew up in Woburn, so not that far away from where you are in Chelmsford. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm a Boston guy. And I'm a big EQ guy. And so you mentioned that. I grabbed onto it because, and I've been asked this question. I want to get your answer. How do you handle the naysayers or the people that are very skeptical about the value of EQ in corporate America?
I think that the way I have approached that is by sort of doing a bit of covert coaching, right? In where you kind of show them why it matters just in the dialogue. Yeah. Because you can't convince someone of something without having facts, right? And when you're talking about something like EQ, it has to be a fact that personally touches them in some way. And giving them, pie charts and Venn diagrams is not going to do it. But having them feel that unlocking of something is what converts them, right? So it's usually in the conversation where someone's like, well, I feel like this is a lot of fluff. Because, there are, woo-woo, right? It's very woo-woo and I'm not into it. And I'm like, well, there's different kinds of coaching and there's different approaches that each coach takes, right? And my view on it or the way that I practice, of course, is situational. However, my approach is very 50-50 because my belief is if we're going to build an authentic, trusting relationship, I can't just pepper you with questions, but I have to make myself vulnerable as well. So I offer to each of my clients, I'm going to ask you questions, right? Sometimes I might be uncomfortable. Sometimes, I might find that thread and tug on it and might not, feel great. But you have free license to ask me any question or to turn any question on me. Well, what would you do? Totally fine, right? I'm here for that. There are coaches who are extremely effective at using a grow model and just asking questions and things of that nature. That's great. I think we need to have, variations in how we approach things because the chemistry may or may not be there and the approach may or may not be there for every client. But what I do when I have someone who's sort of, saying, well, this is very woo, I don't know. I say, well, this is my approach, right? Just forming a relationship, just getting to know you as a person and understanding, what's behind that. In which case my question is, so what if it is woo woo, right? What about that? What about that triggers you? Like, why is that a bad thing? And then, they might say, well, it's not grounded in science or whatever. Okay, but coaching is. Right. So, we're not talking about, and I don't want to belittle any other, aspect of what people do. But, if you're not into like astrology or you're not into, mystical, like, or, whatever it is, then we don't go there. Right. That's not my area of expertise anyways. Right. But what do you consider to be woo woo and why do you think it's not effective? Because I can pretty well assure you there's something we're all grappling with that sometimes we don't even realize it. And then when we figure it out and we're able to confront it and approach it and then fix it, we're unleashed. We reach that next level of self-actualization, right? Which Maslow taught us is really where you're headed, where you want to go, how you want to grow and learn and develop and be. So that's usually how I approach it.
I put you on.
Okay. Yeah, no, I love that. No, it's a hard question, and it's that we see more and more now in the press, right? CEOs of major corporations are coming forward saying, EQ used to be nice to have, it's need to have now. So people like us, Nazma, are getting some validation to bring that into corporate, right? So I am starting to see it turn around a little bit, but I was really curious. That was a great answer. I think it's when you're talking about emotion, first of all, it's something that in corporate, it's not something that's in a comfort zone in the first place. So kudos to you for peeling that onion back and getting people to talk about that, because I think true action is really based on emotion. I always say impact equals action, but impact plus emotion equals massive action. And that's sort of, what I try and get across is that, without the emotion, you may get action, you may close a deal, you may change your culture, but to get massive action, you get that emotions going. And Laura knows exactly what I'm talking about. This is that's when you really start to be a change agent, right? For whoever you're coming in contact with. So great you're doing that, Nazma. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we're all human, right? And it's that's the level where we need to see each other and communicate. And you may be top of the heap today, you might tumble down that tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So it's all really about being real with each other. And I feel like there is so much goodness, so much richness in seeing more people in executive levels talking about the need for having EQ, for leading with empathy, for really, delving into the behavioral changes and aspects that's necessary for leadership. It's not just, P&Ls, right? But it's really being able to connect with individuals and understand what do they need. And it's really just seeing servant leadership move from being a theory into more and more of a practice, which is good for everyone, right? So that's sort of a lovely thing to see in the field.
No, you're right. And when you have that EQ in leadership, or you have that human connection, or I even say love in business, right? That's sort of what I talk about. I'll tell you what happens is, and what I've been seeing is that you can then have those difficult conversations you have to have. You can then put that rigor of operational excellence and cadence, and you've got that trust. You've got that, that common vision and mission that people are now willing to climb that hill with that leader. You need both, and that's really clear now. It's becoming more and more clear, and over the last several years that now we have to have both sides of the brain working. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think leaders have always been good at telling you the what, and then leaving it to their managers to tell you the how, but no one ever really tells you the why, right? And so I think just tapping into that, and then realizing that the why for me and the why for you are very different whys.
Yeah, exactly. We just talked about that earlier today, and how you can go to an executive, right? I mean, you've probably done this based upon what you just said. I can get an executive to tell me for hours what they do and how they do it. But if I ask them why they do it, they have, they don't know. They think, well, they do it for the stockholders, the money, right? Right. But that's really not their why. Yeah.
Yeah. What's really interesting about that is I work a lot with the startup community here in the Boston area.
Yeah.
And founders start with the why.
Yeah.
But it's like over time, as things get more complex and larger, and you do have, whether if it's investors or stakeholders or shareholders or whoever it is that you need to please, the why seems to take a little bit of a back seat to the what. Right. And I think that in bringing that why forward again helps people really connect with, wait a minute, why am I even in this role? That I didn't get into this, right, for, because I wanted to have, 50 people in my department, or I wanted to have big talks at town halls in front of 300 people. That's not my why. So helping them to reconnect that also, I think it's best for the individual as well as the organization.
Yeah, right on. Awesome. Yeah, well said. Thanks for
sharing.
It
feels like in corporate, what happens is the why may start as the nexus, like the center of all things, just like Simon Sinek's The Three Circles. And I love the synchronicities today. But what ends up happening is, instead of it staying as the nexus or the center of everything that revolves around it, it becomes more like a point of perspective. And now it's the guardrails, much like when we're bowling. They have the little, I can't remember what they're called, the things they put in the gutters. Yeah, the bumpers. Now they're bumpers to just guide you, and you think that you're going in the right direction. And now it's the why is like, no, we don't leave. This is where we stay. Right. Instead of it being everything evolves around this one thing.
Right.
Whereas in entrepreneurship, mostly solopreneurship, since it is the one person, it's much easier to keep it as the nexus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, it's really hard to get something off the ground. You have to really believe in your idea, right? Mm-hmm. So that is at the forefront of, I'm passionate about this idea, this concept, this, this finding, whatever it is. And so the why is always very present at that early stages. Mm-hmm. It's just get jaded, or we just get bogged down in the necessity of other things. And sometimes we lose our why.
So we only have a few minutes before I ask you where to find you. But I do want to know about different types of ways that you have chosen to share your message. Because this show is around like how people amplify their message. But we know that not every way is something that is aligned with you or that you were good at. So what is it?
I don't know if I'm good at it, but I am very active on all social media pretty much. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm also personally very active on Instagram and Facebook. I tend to keep some separation between church and state, between business and work, between those two. I have a website, which is firstname.lastname.com, right? So Nazma.Rosado, .com, which is easy to find. And so that's kind of where to find me. I work for Avion Consulting, which is a phenomenal firm, a boutique firm, which is kind of that sweet spot where you're not doing it alone, but you're not doing it with 300 people. And so, those are various ways of finding me. I tell people all the time, connect with me on LinkedIn. There's not a single request that I ever turn down, because you never know when you need, whether if it's, hey, you happen to know someone in your network that I'm applying for a job for, or, hey, I need some advice on this, or, does anyone know, whatever it is. And I think that connectivity is so important, and you might not need it today, you might not need it tomorrow, but having it's a really great net.
Yep. Okay, so back to the first question. What are the different ways that you share your message right now?
So social media, right? Platforms, website, putting out content, things like that. I also speak at various, conferences, and love speaking, as you may be able to tell. And what else? I mean, between doing that, just, I found a real love for being an adjunct professor, because it's like teaching the next wave of people who I find to be incredibly intelligent and wise, learning from them as I'm, trying to share things with them. And as I mentioned, I'm actually working on several books at the same time, just a little bit of ADD in action. But one of them is about my coaching stories. And so it's, here are different, situations, scenarios, case studies, and what I learned from them. Right. And so that's one. Another one has to do with my very interesting life story, which so many people have told me, you really should write a book. And I'm like, really? It's just my life. Like, who's going to care about that? But it is actually a pretty robust and interesting story. So writing that one. And then I have a series of children's books that I've been working on since 2019, where it's just based on all of the mayhem that happens in my home by having, 4 kids who at the time they were toddlers and now they're teenagers. It's insane. The stories that I started writing, but, just little short books. And so those are all of the ways that I try to balance being creative as well as being purposeful.
Did any of those methods ever not come naturally? Like, have you always been a speaker? Were you always a writer, or did you have some time where you resisted?
Oh my gosh. So my mom's most favorite saying ever during my childhood was that children should be seen and not heard. And so I was mute. I was completely mute. My dad was very conservative. He was, religious and stern, and they were trying to be protective, but I was a complete mute. And I would say it wasn't until my second half of senior year of college that I found my voice. It took a long time. I was extremely shy, insecure, like all of those things. And the funny thing is, when I left college and I went into my first job, it was like this eureka moment of like, okay, no one's going to tell me what I need to do or judge me, in ways that I might disagree with. Now I have to own it. Right, in a very different way. There's no professor, there's no parent, and so they just kind of started moving in that direction. So yeah, it's I used to be so silent, and now, I mean, give me a microphone, you have to fight me to take it back. It's like I'm so chatty.
I found a video, or not a video. I found a photo of me on stage in elementary school, where I'm supposed to be sharing a mic with a friend of mine, and you see me like pull the mic toward me. It's like leaning toward me, and
It started then.
I was like, oh, I didn't know it started this early. Okay.
Wow.
But
Well, it's that nature versus nurture, right? It's like, I feel like, if you're in certain fields, there's an intrinsic pull from the beginning. You might not have realized it yet, but there's this need to be heard that comes from somewhere.
So we only have a few minutes, but I want to know a little bit more about that moment in college where you said that you didn't find your voice until then. What changed? For those audience members who are like, I don't really have a voice right now and I want one, help them. What changed for you?
What changed for me? That's a great question. Because I actually had a second sort of awakening, if you will. The first one, though, in college would have been, I think it's when I decided to pull that application and to just completely pivot and to just be okay with not knowing what tomorrow is going to bring, and understanding that I could succeed or I could fail. Like, that failure was never an option before that moment. And I felt very much like I'd failed and I disappointed my parents to the max. It was a little bit like, well, what worse can I do? So that was a little bit freeing. And the second, interestingly, since I've invoked them, the second awakening, if you will, I lost my mom in what was it, July of 2021, and my father in January of 2022. Both from COVID. Very, very interesting story on that, but it was really defining for me in losing both of my parents and realizing, wait a minute, I'm an orphan. Like, I actually fit that descriptor now. But finding, for as much as I love them and as much as I miss them and as often as I think of them, there came a freedom of all of their expectations that had weighed on me my entire life was finally gone. And sink or swim, I didn't have to worry about what would they say, what would they think, how would they react, which is very freeing. Of course, we can really get deep on that because there's a lot of guilt that comes with that as well, right? Like, how do I feel better about some things when I've lost, two very important people in my life? And then that kind of gets you into a whole different and deeper story. But yeah, I would say it would be originally in college, making that decision to not go to med school. And then after that, sort of, it's two periods of taking full accountability for myself.
So one more piece of reflection, and then we will wrap up. So you said earlier that it was about scarcity, about not belonging. And I'm going to input the words, choose your own, of what's the limited. I'm just going to use the word limited. It probably doesn't have the energy that you're looking for. So find a different word for that because it's not quite. But then what you're telling me now is you're looking for You're looking to feel empowered. You're looking for the comfort, and you're looking for freedom of choice, right? Like that, when you were talking about losing your voice, that you pivoted, that you pulled your application, you lost your parents, you have that freedom. We're getting to the beginning pieces there. We talked about EQ, like it all wraps into the equation here. But this is
I feel
behind the scenes what's happening.
For me, I feel like I have all of those things. Like I have gotten to that point where, you know, I have all of those things. So now it's how do I help unlock it for others?
Exactly.
Right? So, and that's why I love the work that I do, because it very much is personal for me, and every interaction, it's not about a contract. It's not about how many sessions did you sign up for. It's about that connecting with another human and helping them to unlock something that's holding them back or holding them down, right? There's always a voice in the back of your head, and I just want to know where that voice comes from. What is it saying to you, and how do we have a conversation with that voice? Instead of burying it and trying to mute it, let's have that little conversation to dispel it, which is more important than just quieting it.
It's the kindness, the respect, and the supportive energy going right back into it, just as we started. Hey, love full circles. Since you already told us where to find you, in about 60 seconds or so, I want to know if there's anything on your mind or in your heart that you wanted to leave people with today.
I honestly feel like everyone should have a coach. Everyone should. You know, it used to be, you know, long ago, people got an executive coach because they were in trouble. It was kind of like a last ditch effort, you know, to show that you're supporting an employee before they're let go. Or it was a part of a, you know, transition package on their way out, sort of a thing. That's not what it is anymore. Coaching now is about where do you want to go, right? Where are you today? What do you need to know, right? So what are your blind sides? What are the things that others see, strengths as well as developmental areas that you may not see? And then how do you take action in utilizing your strengths to strengthen your weaknesses, right? I think if I could go back, if I had a coach at any point in my time in my younger years, I would have been so much more self-aware and so much better prepared to make the decisions that I had to make.
Aww. So I'm going to take this moment to make sure we get in on time to say thank you for this interview. I'll call this the official close. So thank you, Nazma.
It's been wonderful meeting you both, and this has been fun.
Oh, okay. So before you leave, that's the recorded part for TV. Good. We got it in under the 42 minutes. The next couple of minutes that we have, I like to interact, reflect a little bit on our conversation. This part is great for social media snippets, which is wonderful. So I'm going to start with Rob this time. Rob, what is something that stood out to you in our conversation today?
Well, first of all, it was great meeting you and spending time with you. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights there. I loved the see the body as a system, not a person, and you couldn't do that. I wrote that down. My son-in-law is a anesthesiologist, so I get that. I totally get that. And you are doing exactly what you need to do because you found your why. You found what sparks you, and you found what didn't spark you. And I think that's really cool that you had that insight. And the need to serve others. The other thing was give yourself okayness with failure. I love that. And we talked about giving yourself and others grace in today's world. It's sort of another way of saying it, but I love that you said that. So, and then the last thing, and I'll turn it over to you, is that why not me? I love that. I love that. I wrote that down because that stuck with me. And it also resonates with my story. So thank you for being here. I had a blast, and great to talk to a fellow, Bostonian or close at least, and keep doing what you're doing and going forward and impacting the world as you're doing. So great to meet you and wonderful. Thank you.
Hey, Rob, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So one of the things that stood out to me was when you said that you wanted to get out and never go back, it reminded me of a question that I had asked in one of the Blue Talks networking groups, where it was, what is one of your never again moments? Because it just has that same feel, that same energy where you're like, oh, I get it. And I don't like it. And I'm putting my heels in the sand and being like, no more. When you get those moments, oh, they are powerful moments. Because you've made the decision already without knowing how, without knowing the what. All you have at that point is the why. And it's not even that clear. You're just like, no. So when you said that, I was like, ooh, yup, she gets it. So that I really loved that part. And then I'm just going to reiterate what Rob said. I have to separate the body and the person from the system. I would be with you. I'm like, I can't do it. My brother actually did the same thing. He's like, I'm going to be a neurosurgeon because it's the hardest. And he left after the first year too.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. It's funny though, because like I'm still drawn to, you know, medical dramas. Like I still love that world, but I just feel like I can serve it differently. Like I work with, you know, big health systems and hospitals and things like that. And it's like, I can serve you differently to make sure that, you know, the right leadership is in place so that you can better serve patients. I can't do what you do, but I can help you do it better.
Exactly. Right? See, that's so good. Okay. So what's something that stood out to you, Nazma, in our conversation?
Yeah. First of all, I love when a coach is coached, right? Like, I love that opportunity because I'm always on the other side of the discussion, of the dialogue. And so, you know, I approach everything as, okay, what am I going to learn from this? Right? What am I going to take away as like my aha? And I love that opportunity to, you know, have you kind of question and dissect and pull me back to things. That it's refreshing to receive it and to not just drive it. And then there was something Rob said earlier regarding, you know, life and work, right? And I am a firm believer that, you know, like there are people who are career coaches and there are people who are like life coaches. I'm a coach. Like I don't differentiate one or the other because your work is a part of your life and your life is a part of your work, right? Like you're one person. And I encourage folks to not have separate personas as far as who am I at work versus who am I at home versus who am I, you know, like in social settings. You're one whole person and be that person, own that, right? And it's exhausting to be different people in different situations. And that's when your worlds collide, when like someone from one spot meets someone from the other and you're just like imploding. It's like, no, if you're your authentic self, right? Getting back to that, work, life, it sort of finds that natural rhythm because you are who you are. And so those were two things that for me was like, yes.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, very cool. Yep.
At this point, Rob and I for sure are going to recap the day just a little and say our goodbyes. You are more than welcome to join us, but if you do have to go, we completely understand.
Yeah,
So.
I will be taking my leave, but thank you again for this opportunity. It was lovely to spend some time with you and even to sneak in and hear a little bit of what was going on before me. So thank you so very much.
Welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you, Nazma.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Okay, Rob. So it's you and I. I like to end the day with a little bit of a recap because not everybody's going to watch every interview. But it's up to us to find the patterns of the day. So before I share what I saw as patterns of the day, what are some things that you saw that kept coming up?
Yeah, the main thing that kept coming up was the servant in everybody. And the why was always about giving back and serving others in whatever capacity they may be. That was a huge thing for me. They were all servants, and most of them were servants because that's a byproduct of their story.
Mm-hmm. That's like 99.99999% of everybody we ever talk to.
Right, which makes total sense, right?
Total sense.
I mean, so that's what that was the common theme out of everybody, was that they're bringing something to the world that is unique because it's their experience that they're sharing, and they're being authentic and vulnerable. And that's why it's so impactful. That's the common theme for me.
Ooh, okay. So some more things that I saw was, okay, so you mentioned the Y and the EQ.
Yeah.
Kindness came up a lot.
Yes.
Like even how everybody's describing themselves. And I know that that's a key word for many entrepreneurs and the way that they want other people to describe them. But today it just felt deeper.
Yeah.
Not so much on the, I want to be a nice person vibe, to I'm coming at my core to be a kind and caring human being.
Yeah, they wanted to, that magnet, they were all magnets, right? They
Yeah.
wanted to put that out there so they get that back. And yeah, I mean, I thought that was really cool. And resilient came up.
Yes. And then legacy kept coming up.
Yeah, that was the big one.
Not necessarily in that word, sometimes in that word and sometimes not. But just like, what are you leaving behind so that people have a piece of you? Either when you pass or when they're not following you anymore, like all kinds of different phases.
Yeah.
Because we talked about transitions.
Yeah.
Like when I'm talking about a certain topic and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to come over here. We can lose people on all of those steps as well. So having that kind of legacy. So I want to focus to the conversation. What is one thing that stood out to you in all of our conversations today?
Big hearts. They all had big hearts. They really did. And we got emotional from it. We got learning from it. We got impacted from it. Everything sort of happened because of the fact that they all had big hearts. Every one of them. Yeah. And you could feel that. You could feel it.
Definitely. The thing that stood out to me out of all the conversations was obviously the point that made me cry.
Yeah.
Because I try so hard to be better than what I currently know. So the more I know, the more I try to teach my daughter so that she doesn't have to go through what I went through.
Sure.
Whether it was intended or not. So when Bev said that you have to hold everything together, that women of her generation were trained that way, I was like, oh. Yeah. I see the generational impact of that in my family. Yeah. And that really hit me. And I wanted to bring it up again, not so that I would cry, but as a reminder that how many times do we have beliefs like that where we don't even know that they're there? And as soon as somebody says it, you're like, oh. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, it's a trigger. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what stood out to me. So we're just going to shake it off. Thanks for playing with me, Rob. I want to thank you for being my co-host today. We had laughs and tears and silliness, and you went along with all of my silliness. So I appreciate all of that.
I was happy to get invited. I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. And thank you for taking over when I don't know what happened to my internet. StreamYard was like, that site doesn't exist.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. When you disappeared, I'm like, okay, I got it. Because I've done so many of them. I'm like, that's easy. I'll figure it out. She'll come back or not. I don't know. But I didn't want to just sit there and go, well, we got to wait for Laura. That would have been horrible.
Actually, you do have to wait for me because there would be no way to pull people onto the stage with you.
Oh, but at least we could keep going and keep talking. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's funny.
I want to say thank you. You were such a wonderful co-host today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And always good spending time with you.
And to all of our people watching live and on a replay, thank you so much for joining us. Much appreciated for your comments, for even just being here and spending time with us, maybe laughing and crying behind the scenes. I won't tell anybody. But this is just day one. We have 4 more days of this.
Yeah.
And if you haven't noticed, I'm probably going to get more energetic and physically tired as the week goes on. Yeah. This feeds my soul. I love this so much. So we will be back tomorrow for day 2 of Blue Talk's Amplify Your Message. Same bat channel, same bat time. Hopefully we will figure out the issues with the Facebook live. That doesn't seem to want to connect.
And a
We'll
different
find out.
co-host. And a different co-host. You get to have different people all week too, which
The
is really
co-host. Yes. So we start at 10 a.m. Eastern and go to approximately 2 p.m. Eastern. So I will see you tomorrow. Much love. And we get to sing and dance as I click the end stream button. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Do, 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 do.